Hey, Craig, what's up?
Why are you so angry with Craig all the time?
I don't know.
Ugh, he doesn't have a monocle. I hate him.
You'd think I'd be more upset with the snooty one, but Alistair's so helpful and nice. Like Alfred. Alistair's like an Alfred. Craig is just he's like, dude, can I stay on your couch for a couple days? And then 4 months later, it's like, when are you gonna get out? It's like, I don't know.
How is Alistair helpful?
I don't know. He's got a monocle. He's all fancy.
He does nothing different than Craig does.
I I don't know.
Literally the same thing. One just different artwork.
I, you say things that make sense and that are true. Still, it's Craig.
Hello and welcome to episode 8 of the Watch It Bro podcast, where we take a look at Watergate.
It's Waterworld.
Waterworld. I am Tristan,
And I am Marshall. Watergate involved Nixon.
and we are not going to take a look at Nixon, right?
Right. No, we're not doing. No, we are doing Waterworld with Kevin Costner.
A movie that I am told that I have seen before, but I watched it and none of it was familiar to me,
Well,
except for the
maybe.
fact that we watched. Except for the fact that I had seen the show in Universal Studios. I remember that.
Oh, good. It's in my notes. We're going to talk about that too.
Awesome. Okay, so are you ready to dive right in, or do you want to do some more banter?
No, we can dive right in.
Yeah, it's going to be a long one. This is our longest movie at 2 hours and 15 minutes.
True. We did not go with the director's cut at almost 3 hours.
Which I'm glad of, because that's just a lot. And I watch these after work, and it's so hard to find time between putting Finley to bed and then putting myself to bed.
I get it.
But okay, let's dive right in. I got the specs for it, I guess you'd call it. So here we go with that. Waterworld, directed by Kevin Reynolds, written by Peter Rader and David Toohey, who also was a writer for The Fugitive and G.I. Jane.
Nice.
Waterworld was released July 28th, 1995, and was the most expensive movie ever made at the time.
Yes, and then it was beat by Titanic.
But Waterworld was also a commercial flop and never recouped the money that was spent making it.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
It stars Kevin Costner, Dennis Hopper, Jeanne Tripplehorn, Tina Margarino, who was in Karina and Napoleon Dynamite.
Yes. She also played Alice in the made-for-TV Alice in Wonderland miniseries that had Whoopi Goldberg as the Cheshire Cat and Martin Short as Mad Hatter.
And last of our starring cast is Michael Jeter, who you probably know from either The Green Mile, Fisher King, or as Mr. Noodle on Sesame Street.
That's where I know him best.
But yes, a fantastic actor. Unfortunately passed away in 2003.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. So this was Marshall's choice for a movie.
This was my choice, which means I will be leading the discussion.
And
I
I
have.
will interrupt him
That's
just to
okay.
say I will be passing the mic over to him, metaphorically speaking, because we each have our own mics.
Yes, I've got notes. I've got comments. I've got opinions. This is going to be fun.
Yes, it will. It'll be very interesting. I think this is the first movie we've done where I actually have no recollection of any part of the movie.
I think you're right. Yeah, because you had seen my cousin Benny just like the year before, and you did remember seeing bits and pieces of Airheads at some point,
Right. This one was completely new to me.
which is crazy to me because I remember watching this all the time as a kid, and like not all. I mean, enough to where I actually built a Lego boat from the movie and played with it as a kid. So
I had no memory of you doing that either.
there we go.
There it is. Yeah.
But you've seen
So,
it, but you've seen it now, and we will take you to Waterworld.
yes, please do.
So the movie opens up with the Universal logo. You see the Earth spinning, and it zooms in onto the Earth, and you start seeing the pieces of land melting away, like being flooded with water. And the narration comes over to kind of let us know what world we're about to step in. It says, "The future. The ice caps are melted, covering the Earth with water. Those who survive adapted to a new world. And then we get the title, Waterworld.
Very well
It's
thought out.
it's brief and to the point.
Do we know what year it takes place?
There's several hints throughout the movie that it's several hundred years in the future from the current day, and if we're talking about 700 years or several hundred years, yeah, now's current day. The 90s is current day, what have you. So it may be it's got to be a few hundred years at least.
That is important to know because of some of the notes that I took that we will get into as they come along.
As the movie starts out, after the introduction, Waterworld, you're zooming in on this boat, this really cool trimaran boat, and you see our hero. I want to name him now. Should I name him later?
Go ahead and name him now.
Okay, Kevin Costner. No, he's credited in the movie as the Mariner or just Mariner because that's what he goes by. He's a seafarer, and so I will be calling him the Mariner or Mariner from now on. So we see him. He's standing on the boat, peeing into a little bottle, pours it in this little machine, and starts pumping it. And it's a recycling device to clean to purify the water and get him a hydro ration if he can get enough. Um,
He.
yeah, yeah. Pee, flow, continually to cycle the hydration throughout his body. But one of the know right away that if the world's covered in water, it's salt water. It's so there's not a lot of drinking water. That is a rare commodity here. So he distills his water, drinks some, gives some to his little plant that he has. It's a lime tree. It's got like 6 limes on it. The size of this thing is what, a foot tall?
Foot and a half at most.
Yeah, it's got 6 little limes on it, and I'm no botanist, but that seems a little odd.
But it is 700 years, several hundred years in the future. So
It is, and maybe
plants
plants
might
have
have also adapted to be more resourceful and grow smaller.
could be. So he's going along, and then he's got a tow cable in the water that catches on something. So he notices that, he runs downstairs, turns on the machine, grabs a bunch of ball bearings, tosses them in another machine, and dives into the water.
Ball bearings, not BBs.
They could be BBs, but the little ball bearing thing is almost like an hourglass. The bearings start dropping out of the bottom to give him a certain amount of time to do what he's doing under the water. This movie does a good job, I noticed, of portraying passage of time. You don't know exactly how much time has passed, but it always feels long.
This movie did feel long, yes.
That's not what I meant. But we also get a look at his boat while he's under the water. He's got a mobile wind chime thing full of old sprinkler heads and like keys and stuff.
I,
He's got hmm?
oh, I was saying that there's a lot of like rope and pulley systems that we start to see that are like very impressive.
Yeah, but eventually the timer goes off and the winch starts pulling up this cable. And about that time too, it shows in the water this balloon with a bag on the bottom of it coming up from the bottom and breaching the surface. And while all this is going on, we see somebody's hands just come off screen, start picking all the little limes off his little tree, and then we get the shot of the boat and boots come flying out of the water, and followed by the mariner. He had found something under the water, which are these boots, and they look like snowboarding boots.
Yeah, they do. I had to think about that for a second. Like strange boots, but
Yeah, they've been underwater for a long time, and so they're covered in barnacles and seaweed and just that ocean coating. So he's trying them on. He's got this little lighter he's fiddling with, and he hears a noise and looks over and sees another boat just out of the corner of his eye. So he runs up to this big harpoon that he has on the front of his ship and hails the man. It's like, "Hey, you!" And it's a drifter. Another boat has come by. He's like, "Hey, how's it going?" They start talking. The mariner's wary of him. He's like, "Dude, I've seen your boat before, but I've never seen you." And the other guy's like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! I just found this boat. The guys were dead, so I upgraded." He's like, "Okay, okay."
and if you hadn't come back when you did, I'd have upgraded again.
Yes, he says, I was going to give you another hour before I upgraded again, and basically took your boat." But he's like, I didn't come aboard. I wouldn't do that yet. Just giving you some time." And Mariner's like, "Well, two people meet in the ocean. We gotta trade. That's kind of the rules. That's kind of how things go." He's like, "No, I'm good. I just was checking on you, seeing how things are going." He mentions that there is an atoll 8 days east from where they're at. That's where he had come from. An atoll is a circle-shaped reef, and that name has been adopted to these circular shaped outposts that have been built throughout the world. So they're called atolls. He says he just came from there if he's interested, but their talk is kind of cut short when they hear the sound of motors running. They look off into a distance, see two little ski-doos with some people on it, and they're like, "Oh, it's smokers."
Yes, which
Now,
odd name.
it is an odd name, and for the longest time, I haven't seen this movie in about 20 years or so, I'd say. And I always thought the name Smoker referred to the fact that they used engines and always produced smoke wherever they went. Watching it again, these guys had a container of cigarettes at some point and were passing them out to everybody and were constantly smoking.
Yes. I
So I don't know if that was the name or if that was just a representation of everything on that side smokes. The people smoke, the machines smoke because of they're burning the fuel. It's probably a little bit of both.
Yeah, it took me way longer than I'm proud of to deduce that they are called smokers because they smoke. We were almost near the end of the movie, and I'm like, oh, that's probably why they call them. But gosh, they smoke so much oh, right, they're
Yeah.
called smokers. So yeah,
So the drifter finally finished pulling up his sail. He's been kind of doing this the whole time they've been talking. So he gets his sail up. He's like, "We better get out of here." And he looks over at the bag on in floating in the water, the balloon that came up, and he tells the mariner, hey, "Don't go for it. Your sails aren't up. You're not gonna be able to get to it. You're not even gonna be able to get out of here." And then for whatever reason, he pulls up the limes and starts mocking him.
yeah, he's just like, oh, ha 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 ha.
He's like, "Look what I got, nom nom nom," as he starts sailing away.
Well, because he
To
figures the other guy's dead in the water.
right, but you don't have to be a jerk about it.
It's no, you don't. But it's just kind of setting up how cutthroat the world is.
Yes, it is. I mean, he could have just sailed away and said, "Good luck, dude," but no, he's like, "Look, I got your limes." Ha ha ha.
He said thank you, didn't he?
Yeah, he did say thank you.
See, there you go. He's being polite.
So, but the mariner swings over to where his plant is, looks at it, he's like, "Son of a," as the guy starts sailing away.
We get to see just how cool this boat is.
This is my favorite boat in any piece of media, and I remembered exactly how cool it was at the start of this scene. It's so cool. So the boat's just sitting there. It's got this wind turbine kind of thing that's running on the mast while there's no sails up or anything. There's not even a boom on the boat from what you see, but he pulls this lever and the mast starts to expand and causes this wind turbine to kind of fold in on itself to match the mast, and then the boom comes out and telescopes out, and sandbags drop, the sail goes up, and he's ready to go within seconds.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that was awesome. It was
And
awesome.
and he is making a beeline straight for the bag in the water.
Right, but he's got this little, like, almost like a hand crank bicycle pedal thing.
Yeah, yeah, so the where he steers from, he's got these pedals, he's got these levers right next to it, he's controlling the rigging with that. He cranks it with his hands and pulls it back and things just start moving, the boom swings. It's a very cool boat, very cool system, and he's caught the wind and he's headed straight for the bag, and as he does that, the smokers are like, "He's going for it, go, go!" And so they rev up and start going towards the bag as well.
Mhm. Yeah, no,
Um
awesome. We're in action, like, right away.
Yeah.
A
So
boat
you're
chase.
you're watching this scene of them playing almost chicken with the bag. Who's gonna get there first? Who's gonna do it? And he pulls a lever, moves over to the edge of his boat, and kicks another lever as he grabs this hook and leans off one of the pontoons, holding onto a rope. And what he did with he hit the lever, the boom started swinging the other way, which caused the boat to start turning. And as it turns, he reached in with the hook, grabbed the bag, and got it before the smokers were there.
Yeah, he's definitely a professional and very seasoned at getting away, salvaging, and he knows his boat.
Yes, and that's what part of it. He's made this boat custom to how he wants. He knows the ins and outs of it. He knows where each lever does to each thing. It's intuitive for him. He's part of the boat and the boat's part of him.
And it's rigged for maximum efficiency and speed. And no matter what endeavor he's undertaking, he is going to be quick and it's going to do what he wants it to do immediately.
Yeah. So I didn't completely describe the boat, so we'll touch on that really quick. It's a trimaran, so it's got three hulls. One major middle one that's got an underneath, like a below deck, and two on the sides. And between those two pontoons, there's a net in each section, so he can walk across them, jump in there if he needs to. So that's where he tosses the bag as soon as he gets it, tosses it in one of the nets, gets back to his helm where his cranks and he steers from, and just continues that arch of turning to where he's going forward and the smokers are chasing him. And as the old adage goes, you don't have to be the fastest, you just have to be faster than the other guy.
That's right.
So the mariner sees the drifter kind of sailing away, and he's like, he took my limes. So he makes a beeline straight for him with smokers in tow. The drifter realizes what's going on, and he's like, oh shoot. He's trying to get his little boat to go faster.
He thought he was safe and then let his guard down and it cost him.
Yeah, and with the bigger boat, with the bigger sails, it's picked up more speed, and he just goes right over the boat. So it goes between two of the pontoons, and the brace between the pontoons just clips off the drifter's sail, and he is left in the dust as a prize for the smokers.
Just like he didn't have to mock him about the limes, Kevin Costner, the mariner, didn't have to completely wreck the guy's boat.
True,
He
but
could have given him a chance. But
he could have.
you don't steal.
But at the same point too, if the smokers are on motor vehicles, so they would have kept coming for a while at least.
Yeah.
So now they have a reason to stop. So and the smokers do stop. They're like, "Hey, we didn't get that bag, but we got this guy's boat."
And they kill him instantly, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. They light him up really quick with their guns as the mariner sails away. Okay, so we cut to a few scenes of time passage and the boat just sailing along, day, night, wide shots of this boat going, and then he finally gets to the atoll, the circular settlement, and pulls up to the gate. He's like, "Hey, I got some stuff to trade. Want to let me in?" They're like, "No, we have stuff to trade. We have traders. We don't like new people. No." And then he's like, "Well, I got a jar of dirt."
Valuable.
Yes. So yeah, he holds up this jar, pulls a little handful out, lets a little bit drop. They're like, "Oh, it's dirt. We should let him in." So they do.
They give him like 2 hours. They say you have two
Yeah,
hours. And he's like, I only need one.
exactly. The guy at the gate was the one that came down and told him he had 2 hours. He's like, "You know who I am?" He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Okay, if there's any trouble, I'm gonna take care of you." And then he doesn't know who he is, but he knows what he is. He's an enforcer for the toll. He's there to keep the peace and make sure no trouble goes down. But when he pulls in and hooks up his boat, he's got a rear view mirror that he's shining at some kid's eyes.
Hmm.
to to harass them a little bit. But after the interaction with the enforcer, he walks over to them and shows them the mirror and says, "Hey, you all get one of these if no one messes with my boat and all my stuff is still there." And they're like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
So
So
he's kind of showed the kids what this is and says, "You each get one if you don't mess with my boat and kind of make sure no one else messes with my boat." So he's got himself a little security detail at the moment. So I don't know the size of the settlement exactly, but it was big enough for his boat to get in. It seemed maybe like the size of a football field in there in the water section
okay. Yeah, about 100 yards
a little bit,
in
but
diameter.
it's got full walls all the way around it, little buildings built into the walls. There is even a makeshift garden with a
Hmm.
tree, kind of almost not directly in the center, but off to the side along the wall. They want to keep the center in for boats and small things coming in. But we see a funeral as he's passing by of them recycling somebody into this composty mud pond.
Right. And like at first I was like recycling. What is that? And it's they dump them in this mud pit and their body breaks down and they use that for fertilizer.
Yeah, it's a little bit of everything.
Yeah, it's the nutrients. They don't, there's so little nutrients around in a world covered in water that they need some kind of fertilizer to enrich the soil. What little soil they do have to grow things.
Yeah. So while this settlement is large, it's not huge, and word
Mm.
spreads about somebody coming with dirt fast. So as he's moving through, you got kind of people following him, asking him, seeing what's going on. But he makes it to the trading post almost. But dirt's treated like gold, so they got it on this little scale. He's tasting it a little bit. He's like, "Oh, that's pretty pure dirt," because this guy eats dirt.
Connoisseur of the dirt.
Yeah. Yeah, so he's got 3.2 kilos of it, and they're trying to figure out, like, "Well, where'd you get it?" And he's like, "I got it from another atoll about 80 horizons to the west." And they're like, "Oh, we heard of that one. I think everybody's dead there, right?" He's like, "Well, that's why they didn't tell me where they got it." So they're calculating it out to figure out how many chits this guy gets. Chits are their currency. It seems like they tally dirt like it's pure hydro, which is what they call pure water. What's really cool is Since it's been so long, they have different names and different terms for things. Instead of saying pure water, it's like, oh, it's pure hydro. They say that they can offer him 62 shits for it. And he's like, that's great. I want double that. So the guy looks back at his boss, I'm assuming, who looks almost exactly like Liam Neeson.
You did, didn't he?
Yeah, it wasn't. I looked it up, but I'm like, is that Liam Neeson? I don't know why he would have a part to just stand there, but the guy nods and he gets his double the money and he makes his way to the store. So before he gets into the store, we have a brief scene with a guy named Nord who's got big poofy blondish red hair and a hydroholic.
Hydraholic.
Yes, he's fiending for water.
He's thirsty.
Well, yeah.
The guy's thirsty.
He's a hydroholic. He needs it. I mean, we all need it, but
That's kind of how water works.
it is. But Nord's talking to this guy. He's got water in his hand. So he's like, "So tell me about this girl with the tattoo." And dude's like, "Well, there's this girl who's got a tattoo that's supposed to lead to dry land. I hear this is a good rumor. I hear even the smokers are looking for her." He's like, "Well, that's good to know. Best keep that under our hat then." And gives him the rest of his water for getting his information. And at that point, the Mariner shows up, followed by like 10 people kind of watching him. But as he gets to the post, they kind of disperse and leave him to do his business, where he heads up to the bar and gets a drink of water, but also like, "Is this it? You don't have anything here. This is."
Yeah, it's picked clean.
Yeah, it's pretty pick clean. But he finishes his cup of water and asks for another one, and that's when Nord settles up beside him. He's like, "Make that 2 cups. Someone as rich as this guy will gladly pay for another outwater." Right?
Wrong.
Wrong. Wrong.
Absolutely wrong.
The Mariner's like,
Get your own.
"No, just 1." And Nord's like, "Huh." He's a little perplexed, but he's not dissuade. He's gonna stand here and be as friendly as he can, which Mariner's not having.
No,
He's
he's not
he's
a personable guy.
he's brushing him off. He doesn't want to talk. Nord comments on his boots that he's got, the new snowboard boots. He's like, "Hey, are those for trade?" And he's like, "No." This is when we see Anola, the little girl with the tattoo. She comes out from the back and kind of reaching through a little stove looking for some charcoal to so she can draw some more. But we get a view of the tattoo on her back, and we see the hydroholic kind of mime over to Nord. It's like, that's her, the girl I saw with the tattoo. So he's like, "Okay." And then Helen, the girl behind the bar, kind of ushers her in the back and says, "Get back there. I'll bring you some stuff later, but stay hidden, or not hidden, but just get out of
Stay
here."
out of sight.
Yeah, stay out of sight. Back to the Mariner. He's seen what there is to trade or to buy, and he's like, "Is that a tomato plant over there? I saw one in a book once." And she's like, "Yeah, you know your stuff." And he's like, "How much for the plant?" She's like, "Half your chits."
Yeah, and then she grabs
Yeah,
to see how much he's got, and he smacks her hand away and just dumps some pretty willy nilly on the counter, and looks at her like, "There you go, take it or leave it."
she takes it. She goes to get the plant, and then he also buys some of the shelves off the wall.
Yeah, I mean, why not? It's just it
Ex-
shows very much in this world there's no structure.
yeah.
Pretty much, it's
Um,
all lawlessness.
Yeah, there's some basic rules that some people follow, but if you can get away with it, do what you can. Nord's still there trying to be friendly, kind of brushes him off one last time, and Nord finally walks away. So on his way back to the boat, you can see he's also bought some jugs of water. Bunch of people are following him, and he is approached by the elders of the atoll. They're like, "Hey, you're an outsider. We're getting to the point of inbreeding. How about we make a deal and you impregnate a few people, and then you can go." And he's like, "No, I'm out."
Yeah, weird proposition.
Yeah, he's like, "Nope, that's too much." He wants no part of it and heads back to his ship.
Well, they say, and you can leave with all the supplies you want, and he's like, "You don't have anything." I'm
Yeah,
I'm literally carrying the rest of what you had.
yeah. You don't have anything left. This place is dying. They're like, "We
Yeah,
know. That's why we want you to impregnate these people."
yeah, just too little, too late, I
Yeah,
guess.
he's like, "No, I'm out." The elders think something's wrong. They're like, "No one's been out at sea that long and will say no to this. Maybe he's a smoker spy." So they call for the guards. The guards are like, "Hey, you can't go anywhere till the elders say so." And he's like, "No, forget you," and starts putting stuff on his boat. And then More guys show up, and a struggle breaks out. They're trying to keep him there. He's trying to get away, and that's when we realize something about the Mariner. Someone notices something behind his ear that he has gills,
Gills. He's a mutation, they call him.
a mutie or muto, as referred to later. I guess that's worse than being a smoker spy. I don't know, but the people freak out. Basically, the consensus is he's a mutant. Kill him. He gets swarmed by more people, ends up in the water, ends up killing somebody who's trying to stab him. He's defending himself. I mean, he probably didn't have to do that, but you're in the heat of the moment. Do what you can. They're not going to stop coming at you, so taking the knife. Anyway, but they toss the net in. They start dragging him out of the water because he gets caught in the net. They're ready to just stab him, beat him, kill him when the enforcer shows up again and kind of brings a semblance of peace. Like, hey, stop this. And they're like, what? And he's like, hey, you pay me to keep the peace. This is not peaceful. This is not how we do things here. We're going to do this the right way if we're going to do it. So the people all kind of calm down, like, oh, right, I guess we do pay you to keep the peace. So we cut to our friend Gregor.
If he's our friend yet.
We meet this guy for the first time, Gregor. He's an old man. He's a scientist. He's an inventor. He's working around, but he pulls some things, sets up the generator, wind turbine generator, and plugs it in, and lights come on as it's nighttime now. A little bit of time has passed, but the lights kick on. The mariner's in a cage, and he's watching people try and get stuff off his boat. Some kids try to grab some things, grab and go, but he's like, they're nailed down too tight. Just leave it.
Definitely he's secured and prepared for thieves. He's not making anything easy for anybody.
No, he's not. But he also sees Nord in his little rowboat headed for the gate to leave, and Nord has his boots.
Nord waves up at him, doesn't he?
Yeah, he waves up at him, puts his booted foot with the mariner's boots up on the edge of the boat, and just kind of like, I got him anyway.
Yeah. Didn't have to trade you for him.
Nope. But now Enola, the girl, her name's Enola. She's with Gregor, just drawing things. She's drawing the mariner in the cage. She drew a horse.
Rachel kept calling her granola. I was like, I think it's Enola, and she goes, granola's close enough. Fair.
Enola, but he's asking about the tattoo on her back. He's like, Is that a map? If you knew what it was, would you tell me?" And she's like, "I don't know what it is. I'm 11." I don't know how old she is.
It's on my back. I can't see it.
Right.
They don't have cameras. They don't have mirrors.
Yeah.
She would have no way of seeing what is on her back.
So he's just kind of like, yeah, okay." But Helen comes down, looks over the drawings, and Gregor seems to think that Enola has visions and stuff. So that's why she draws some weird things sometimes, like the animal with the four hooves or the four legs. In a water world, no one's seen that.
Right. No
But
one's seen
she
a
drew a
horse.
horse. So yeah, he thinks she has visions and sees things, and Helen's not sure what to make of that, but she's just like, she's just drawn. But she's asking Gregor if they're ready to leave, and he's like, no, I haven't figured out the map yet. I have nowhere to go. I don't know where we're going, but makes it clear that they're planning to, I don't know if it was escape, but go somewhere. And they're hoping it's dry land based on the map on the girl's back.
Right. Yeah. They're definitely looking for dry land.
Right. But Enola says, "Well, maybe that guy knows how to read it," and points up to the mariner. And he's like, huh,
Because he did show up with a lot of dirt.
yes. Showed up with a lot of dirt. And, Gregor's like, that's interesting. So he gets some gear on and a little light. He's got this weird little propeller hat thing on too.
Yeah, he does.
But he goes up to see the mariner, and he's like, "Oh, you do have web feet," because he sees his feet sticking out of the cage. And this is the first time we see his feet. He's got webs between his toes, so he's got the gills, he's got the web feet. So he's suited for water. It makes sense why he was underwater so long at the start.
Right. Well, because the merchant then even commented, he goes, "You were under there a long time."
Yeah, yeah, and he said there was some wreckage down there with some air bubbles, so he's able to stay down or something.
Yeah. Made up some excuse, because I guess being a mutant's worse than being a smoker.
Yeah, feared in very different ways. But Gregor's asking him all kinds of questions, like where the dirt came from, where he came from. Does he know what caused the water to take over the earth? How long has he been around? And the mariner is just like, if you get me out of here, I'll tell you things. He's like, I can't get you out of here. I don't have a key. He's like, well, there's a mooring cleat down there. Go get that, and we'll pry this thing open. He's like, oh, okay. So Gregor gets ready to go get this thing, and he's spotted by the enforcer. He's like, hey, leave that guy alone.
Right. Boris is really suspicious, and he's like, "It's time for you to move along."
Yeah, yeah, and Gregor's like, "Well, I'm not a brave man. See ya."
Not brave, but honest. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, he's like, "You know what? It'd be a waste for all your knowledge to die with you. Just tell me something before I go." And he the mayor just kinda turns his back on him.
He's throwing out a Hail Mary. He's out of
Yeah,
time, and he's just desperately trying to see if he can get any information to help him get to dry land.
right. So he takes off, and we cut to a scene of the sun coming up, rising over the ocean, and we see a bunch of boats and jet skis and smoke just kinda billowing out from these vehicles, so the smokers are on the move.
Yep. So would now be the time to talk about my questions?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Okay.
sure, feel free to interrupt me anytime you have questions.
Well, now that we've seen the smoker and we've seen the smoker's kind of outpost and seen like a lot of jet skis and a lot of motorized equipment.
Do we wanna wait till the smokers show up in just a minute?
No,
Okay,
no, I think I want to take care of it because I don't want to. Yeah, um, get
okay, yeah, now's a good point. We saw the smokers, we know they have
we
jet skis, we know they have boats.
we know they have a
Um,
lot of there are a lot of motorized things.
yes,
So that brings me back to the fact that this is several hundred years after the Earth has flooded.
yes.
Where are they getting the fuel?
Okay, that is something we can
Because
touch on now or in a little bit, because that comes up later.
does it actually come up in the movie and I just missed it?
Yes, it comes up in the movie
Okay.
where
S-
they've figured things out, and there's something on that, and we will touch on it.
And then secondly,
Yes,
engines don't last forever. The modern combustion engine is a very complex piece of machinery which involves not only new parts but like metal fabrication and welding and all this stuff. So for that all these motors to be around hundreds of years later, someone has to know how to not only work on them but essentially build them new.
another thing we'll touch on later.
Do they get it? Do they explain that as well?
N Not completely, but we can extrapolate.
Okay. So so I've only seen this movie the one time, so I guess I missed those details because those were
Oh,
questions that I had.
I get it. I know I get it, and they as I was watching it, I was remembering things like had similar questions to you.
Mhm.
Part of it is suspension of disbelief. This is just the world we're in. Okay, it happens. But there are a few answers and some things we'll touch on a little bit later.
Right, and it's like I'm all for the suspension of disbelief. However, give me something.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like it doesn't have to be like a huge scientific explanation, but just acknowledge that like we needed to figure out how this worked. Oh, got it. You figured it out somehow. By
Yes.
acknowledging it, I can therefore acknowledge that you've acknowledged it and therefore assume that you have come up with some way to make it work. But if
Yes.
we just completely gloss over it and take it for as a given, I'm like, well, hey, hang on.
I get it.
Yeah. So okay, so we'll touch on those later then.
Yes. We'll touch on some of the smoker stuff later. I've got some notes and I've got some touch points.
Okay, perfect. Let's continue.
Okay, so it's morning now. The sun has come up. It's daylight. The elders are coming over to where the mariner is, and they decided he's dangerous and needs to be recycled.
Yep.
So the enforcer's like, "Sorry, dude. I just get paid by these guys." You can tell he doesn't want to do this. Like, let's let this guy go. We don't need to do this. But he's there. He's there to protect the atoll. So he's like, "Sorry, dude. This is what we do." So he pulls the lever, and they start lowering him down into the mud soup, the recycle pit. So as it slowly starts going down, we see one of the gate guards kind of sitting up in his post with his spyglass looking around, and then he sees what's on the horizon and yells out, "Smokers! Everybody hide, get out of the sun." So people start panicking. People start getting to their positions. And so people start getting in the positions, getting ready for the smokers coming because there's a big group of them coming to this settlement. This is where we get a really good look at what the smokers have.
Oh yeah.
They've got jet skis, they've got motor boats, they've got big boats, they've got guns and firepower. They've got this four-barrel machine gun thing on the front of one of their boats where a guy kind of sits in it and he's got two barrels on one side, two barrels on the other side, and he's just it's just these guys are set up. It's like Mad Max on water.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's showing all people running around all throughout the settlement or the Aristotle
Atoll.
atoll. I was close. And then it shows a wonderful bird's eye view of the atoll.
Yes.
And it looks just like the Millennium Falcon.
It does. It looks like the Millennium Falcon. The two little spots at the front of the Millennium Falcon, that's where the
Yeah.
gate would be. So
Yep.
there basically a gate would open up there and it go in, and yeah, I saw that. I'm like, oh, it's the
Yeah,
Millennium
me
Falcon.
too. I'm like, "Oh, look, Millennium Falcon, look at that." So, I'm glad you saw it too. I assumed
Yes.
you would. I told Rachel, I'm like, "Marshall's gonna totally get that," but that looks like the Millennium Falcon.
But like I was saying before, the guy at the gun seat just starts firing and lighting up the side of the settlement. Your holes are getting punched in the walls. There's a battle going on. People are fighting back with big water hoses from the atoll side. I mean, they basically got people on pumps down below, making sure the water pressure goes. So they're trying to knock them off and drown them with these water things. They're shooting flaming spears, and it's a battle. And this is where I'm going to talk about the Universal stunt show that comes along with this movie,
Okay.
because this scene is, I think, the inspiration for that stunt show. It's a similar area built up like the inside of this place, and it's an attack on it. So you've got the smokers coming to attack this place. You can see the boats come in. You see everything going on, and that is a fantastic stunt show. If you're ever at Universal, I recommend you see it. I saw it as a kid and loved it, along with the movie, and then I saw it a few years back when I went down there, and it's still just as cool.
Yeah, it's actually still going on, and if it lets you know anything, I've seen apparently I've seen this movie before, and I've seen the Universal show, and the Universal show is the only thing about this I remember, so which is more
Yeah,
memorable?
and they just refurbished the stunt show too, so they picked everything up and made it good. But it's great because it's a physical stunt show. I know a lot of events and things have gone to screens where you're looking with 3D glasses, you're looking at stuff and like, oh, they're doing things. It's kind of cool, but it's an actual stunt show. A stadium, people are swinging across things and jumping in the water, and things are exploding.
Yeah, it's cool. I remember that. I remember it being in like picture like the tank from Free Willy that the whale's
Oh,
in.
I'm like, I'm like, there was a tank in Free Willy, but yes, you mean a water tank, not
Oh,
a army tank.
yes, no, not an army tank. The
I
the
went to
literal
a different kind of tank when you said it because we're in the middle of a battle.
right, no, 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 the water tank in Free Willy that they kept Willy in.
Yes, yes.
Picture that
Um,
except with a huge base in the middle of it and then stunts,
yeah,
and it's awesome.
but you see a lot of similar things in the stunt show as you do in this battle. People jumping over stuff, chasing people. It was a lot of fun. But back to the movie now. Oh, at this point in the movie, we realize that the smokers have been doing this a while. They've got everything they need, and some of these big boats they brought up are ramps. They start cranking on one side, and part of the boat enters the water, and it kind of ramps up. So they're aiming them at the walls, and you see this plane come in, little pontoon plane, biplane comes skimming over the surface, dragging four guys on skis behind him, and it goes over the atoll. These guys go over the ramp, over the walls, and they're inside. And soon after that, a bunch of jet skis follow and jump over. The smokers, they seem to have a nothing can kill us mentality about them because they're just doing stuff.
Right, they're completely reckless.
Yeah, completely reckless. They're organized. I mean, they're getting the job done, but they don't care for each other that much. They don't care for themselves that much. I mean, at one point, one of the smokers goes over the wall, but he lets go of his loses his jet ski. He flies. He hits into the mariner's cage, knocks it off the chain that was holding it, and now he's in the mud. He never
Yep.
actually got into the mud, but now he's in the mud with a dead or knocked out smoker on top, which he just kind of rolls over, grabs his knife, and starts trying to get out. Gregor has been yelling to Helen and Anola, like, "Hey, get up here! It's time to go." So they start working their way to him because during this battle, he kind of bumps up into this machine that starts going off. He's like, "Oh no, it's not time yet!" But he's like, "Girls, get up here! We got to go." So the battle continues on. Just it's I mean, it's a battle. There's fire, there's gunfire, there's people flying through the air. It's crazy and very entertaining. But as we see what's going on with Gregor, this is a scene I would say straight out of the Wizard of Oz.
How so?
So he bumped his machine, which started filling up this hot air balloon that he has, which
Mhm.
was their escape plan to head towards land. to be above the water. Well, he's like, "Oh no, I don't know how to stop this thing," and he gets into it to kind of help try and steer it so he can be safe. And they're like, wait for us," and he's like, "I'm sorry, I don't know how my thing works," and just kind of starts floating away, which is exactly what happens at the end of the Wizard of Oz when the wizard is in the basket of the hot air balloon. He's like, "I can't bring it down, sorry, Dorothy," and just kind of floats away, and Dorothy's left in the Emerald City.
I have to watch The Wizard of Oz again.
Maybe it'll come up. So yeah, Gregor's up there. He's floating away. They're trying to reach for him. He's trying to drop the rope. He's like, "I got the rope," and he tosses it back, and it catches on one of the propellers of the machine, so it doesn't fall. He's like, "Oh no!" It's a very a very bumbly exit for him, but he kind of floats away. And outside, you see the leader of the smokers. His name's Deacon.
Played by Dennis Leary.
No, Dennis Hopper.
Dennis Hopper.
He's like, "What's that guy doing? Shoot him down." So they aim to start shooting at him, and a jet ski just kind of jumps in front of the bullets and blows up. And they seem to forget about the hot air balloon now.
Yeah, they shoot him and they're like, "Oh, okay." And then it's yeah, right back to it.
Yeah, so he floats away. But then Helen is like, "You know what? The Mariner." So she runs down to the cage just as it's about to submerge. The knife he was trying to get this, open this cage didn't work. He's out of options. The cage is just underwater. He's like, "Fine, whatever," and just kind of sinks back into the mud. And you see her grab in there and pull him out. He's like, "I get you out of here. You take us with you." And he's like, "Sure."
At this point, he's just like, "Whatever gets me out of this cage, lady."
Exactly. She grabs something, busts that lock with very little effort.
Which makes me kind of wonder, like, what was his problem?
He just didn't have the leverage. Plus, he was in mud, upside down.
Sure. Okay.
So she gets him free and he gets out. And he's like, "Okay, you get that gate open. I'm gonna get the boat ready." So she and the kid head over to get the gate going. He dives in the water. You get to see some of his swimming skills. He just moves through the water like a fish man.
Yes, as Rachel put it, "Oh, he's a little dolphin." That's a direct quote.
Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, but swims through the water, kind of. I mean, like you would see a mermaid or a dolphin, just kind of. And then he just shoots out of the water and lands onto his boat and starts getting things ready, punching a few people here and there. And he actually sees the enforcer guy from the gate and who's gonna plunge him into the soup. The enforcer's got, I don't know if it's his daughter or just some kid in his arms, but he's taking her out of this boat and trying to get away. And a smoker's coming up on him, so he throws this big knife that he has at the guy, kills the smoker, and saves the enforcer guy and lets him and is able to let him get away. Like there was a mutual respect there. It's like, "I know you had to try and kill me, but I get it. You were getting paid. It's no hard feelings almost."
Yeah, good business.
Yeah. So we're back to Deacon. He's like, "It's kamikaze time." And they're like, "Yeah!" So there's a bomb boat goes zooming straight at the wall of this settlement, and the guy on there is just happy driving, doing his thing. He I never see him jump off.
No, no, he doesn't.
No, he just rams into the wall. The boat explodes, creates a hole, and now more smokers are flooding in. And we see Nord again, the guy who was at the bar who took his boots. He's there with the smokers, and he's shooting as well. And the mariner throws a spear at him and misses him by inches. I don't know if he was trying to miss him or trying to hit him, but
Well, they make eye contact, and he's like, holds up his hand and
yeah,
shows
he's like,
like,
"It was that
"Ah,
close."
almost gotcha."
Yeah, Nord's like, "Shoot that guy," because he threw the thing at me. So they start shooting at him. He gets down. The boat starts moving towards the gate, and Helen and Enola had got one side open, but the other side's stuck, and his boat's too big to get through it. Fortunately, something explodes, and there's a big hole on the other side of the gate. So he's like, "Okay, I think I can fit." So he starts going up, but it's still not big enough. He gets stuck right there. And the explosion has caused Helen and Enola to fall off the gate itself, the walkway. So they're hanging there, and he's yelling up like, "Drop the girl, just get up there and open it." And she's like, "It's stuck." And the mariner, with a sigh of exasperation, grabs one of his pulleys, kicks a lever, and a sandbag drop. He goes zooming up the mast and gets to the top of the gate. And at that point, Enola has climbed up Helen and is back on the gate as well. And the two of them get the other side of the gate moving. They're pushing the system, pulling the levers, and then eventually the gate starts opening. And he takes off back for the boat, leaving the kid. Jumps into one of the nets and gets going on the boat. Helen and Enola are like, "Jump down into the net, get down there." So they drop down into the net and they start taking off. At this point, with the gates open, the boat moving, Deacon sees this. He's like, "I didn't say anybody can leave. Shoot that guy."
As you do.
And I hate sales. He specifically says that. I hate sales. So yeah, he tells them to take care of that boat, which no one really does anything about. They shoot it a couple times. He gets down, but they just keep going. And then he tells Helen to grab to steer, just keep it going one way. He runs up to the front, grabs his harpoon that's attached to the front, and shoots the big gunboat, the one with the four barrels. And that guy, he's just shooting. He's shooting the walls. He's having a good old time, but the harpoon, he hooks it. He's got a big tether on it, and they start pulling the boat. So the guy's shooting and slowly drifting, and and this is one of my favorite parts because he's still shooting. At this point, he's past the settlement, and he's still getting pulled, and he's the line of fire is getting closer to Deacon's boat, the leaders, and Deacon's looking at it. He's like, "Can someone tell me why that guy's still firing?" And everybody's like, "Who's firing? Who's the?" He's like, "What's that cousin's name?" And they call each other cousins. And he's like, "His name's Chuck." And everybody's like, "Chuck, stop shooting!" And Chuck's still going. And Deacon's like, "Well, maybe he doesn't answer to Chuck. Call him Charles. Charles."
Yeah, that was good.
They're trying to get his attention. He just keeps shooting, and Deacon's like, "Oh shoot!" And he he jumps over the edge just as the boat explodes. And at
Yeah.
that point, the mariner cuts the line, and the boat just the you see the trimaran start sailing away. That's when Chuck starts shooting and realizes, oh, he messed up. Just
But they don't ever deal with Charles.
no. I like that line to deliver. Like, well, maybe he doesn't answer to Chuck. And this is where I realized that Dennis Hopper and Kevin Costner are both in two separate movies. Kevin Costner is playing this post-apocalyptic, very melancholy, like stoic, and the gravitas of a post-apocalyptic thing would be. I mean, if you look at his stuff, it's more drama, it's more survival. And Dennis Hopper, he's just going for it. He doesn't care. He's having fun. He is some of the stuff he says later. It's like when some of those words even register now. He doesn't care. He's just off the rails. And every time the smokers are around, the tone changes a little bit. And for my opinion, I think there was a way to do the smokers in the more serious way. If they were sticking with the Kevin Costner kind of toned down ish, but the villains definitely feel like they're in a different movie than Kevin Costner is and it kind of goes that way. It feels like. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely the tone of it isn't very inconsistent.
Right. Right. And it was working for me up until you start getting Dennis Hopper talking and how he's acting. He's having fun. It's great watching him, but it doesn't exactly fit with how things in the world have been established up until this point.
Right. It's definitely it completely throws off the original tone of the movie.
Yeah. And then we get a little bit more of Dennis Hopper, Deacon being funny for just with how he's reacting. The smokers are in there. Deacon showed up. The whole half of his face is black, and he's wearing this eye patch, and blood's coming down. And Nord's like, "Hey, I got some guys we can ask about the girl because they're looking for the girl. They want this map. They're like, she's got to be here somewhere." And there's two guys kind of strung up on these big wheels. He's like, "Okay, the first one to tell me something lives, and then I kill the other guy." And so they both start talking, and it's a little too much for Deacon. So he shoots one of them. He's like, "You win. Tell me what you know." So he's like, "I saw the girl. She jumped in the boat with the fish man, and they got away." He's like, "Great, thank you." And he points the gun at him, and he's like, "You said you wouldn't kill me." He's like, "Did I? Did I say that? Maybe I said that. I don't remember." Like he puts his hand to his head like he's got a headache, and he starts walking away and hands the gun to Nord, who's like, "Okay," and then he shoots him.
Which I thought that was funny. That was
Yeah.
good.
Like I said, Dennis Hopper he's fun to watch. He's hysterical. He's doing his thing, but it just doesn't fit exactly with what the tone of the movie was that they set up.
No, not at all.
So they're hashing things out, and Deacon's like, "Okay, so The Mariner has cost me 1,000 Gs of go juice, which I'm assume which is the fuel and stuff that
Hmm.
was on the boat that exploded, and all the resources they have spent so far into looking for this girl. He's like, okay, so at this point, we get back to base and we send out the skyboat to go find him. And they're like, great, we send out the skyboat, which is what they call the plane because they don't know what planes are. Everything's boats now.
Makes
So it's a
sense.
skyboat. So we're back to the trimaran, and I mean we're going to go back and forth a lot, but at the moment we're at the trimaran. They have just escaped. The Mariner's drinking what seems to be the last bit of his water. He's got just a single water bottle, and Helen's watching him, and she's got this weird little smile on her face, like is he going to give me some water? But then she's like, "You've been there, haven't you? You've been to dry land because he came in with the dirt." And so she's under the assumption that he knows where dry land is. And she's like, "You're gonna take us there, right?" And he's like, "I'm gonna you and me are going. We have to toss the kid over now." Playing back into that dramatic, melancholy, end of the world vibe.
Right, that's very dark. We're gonna have to kill this little girl.
Yeah, he's like, "It's better to toss her overboard now than to watch her slowly die over weeks." That's his thinking. And she's like, "Wait, wait, no, no. We can cook, we can clean, we you can have my necklace." She's offering up everything like, "No, just let us stay." And she's like, "You've got nothing I want." And then she's like, "Oh, I know." And she tells the girl to go down below and she offers up her body to him. And he kind of looks at her for a second and is like, "No, you have nothing I want." And walks away. To which she proceeds to kind of scoop up her dress and cover herself and then grab a harpoon gun and point it at him.
Yeah, get very bold, very fast.
Yeah, we cut down to Enola, who's looking around the down below of the boat, the living quarters, and she finds an old box of crayons that she opens up and takes a few because we've established she likes to draw. She's pointing the gun at him, and "You're going to take us to dry land, and that's it." And he's like, "How long are you going to point that at me?" She's like, "Till I don't have to anymore." And he's like, "Okay." And he's messing with some of the stuff at the helm, and then he flips a lever, and the mast drops on
And
her.
then he what grabs an oar or something and bashes her over the head with it.
Yes, he then grabs an oar, smacks her in the head to knock her out, and kicks the harpoon gun away. At this point, Anola has come up to look around, but he kind of just drops the oar. He's over it at this point, and he starts climbing the mast. Where we see him hanging out at the top of the mast on this little crow's nest thing, as they just kind of keep sailing away. He's setting up, and it's clear at this point he's still doing what he has to survive. He's not super thrilled about these people being here. I mean, he wanted to toss the girl overboard. I don't know if he really did or was just saying that, but
Oh, I think he really did.
yeah, that's fair.
It'll be justified here in a little bit.
But we're back with the smokers now. Doctor's touching up some. He's got a big paintbrush and he's poking Deacon around the eye with it, trying to touch up his now glass eye. And this is another one of those tonal shifts where we get a
Yeah,
look at this thing.
and it's perfect.
It is perfect. It's hysterical. This thing's huge. It's bright blue. He's got. I don't know if they were trying to put eyelashes on him or if it was the stitches that was just frayed everywhere. But
I want to say stitches.
he looks ridiculous. And he's like, "How do I look?" And everybody's like, "Oh, you look great. And you know what? This one looks better than your other eye." And he's like, "That's great. Hey, kid. Hey, Toby. What do you think?" He's like, "It looks like crap."
Yeah,
He's like,
that's what I love. Kids, they're so honest.
"Yeah, yeah." Picks up his little mirror. And he's like, "It does look like crap."
That it falls out of his head.
Yeah, their ledger guy, the numbers guy comes in. He's always got a book. He's writing stuff down. He's like, we got to go take a look at the pit. We got a problem." And he turns to look at him, and the eye just kind of pops out and rolls on the ground. And someone hands it back to him. And he seems over it. He grabs his eye patch and gives somebody the glass eye. He's like, "What's going on?" He's like, "Well, there's an issue at the pit. We got to go talk to the guy." So it's like, "Okay, let's drive there." And they head out of the little doctor's office thing. They get into an old, beat up, rusted car and start driving down this little path full of garbage. Fires are going off everywhere. You can see people forging and welding things, repairing some of the equipment, reloading bullet casings with new bullets and powder. They're redoing their stocks here. So they've got the ability to weld here. They've got the ability to repair here. This is what I was talking about with some of the stuff that's they are keeping up on their stuff. They're keeping things running with this place.
Hmm.
And the pit, Oh yeah, and the people are pawing at the car, like, "Hey, where are you going? What's going on?" And Deacon is like, fine," and he pulls out this plate of cigarettes and starts tossing to the people as they drive by, and people are clamoring for the cigarettes, like, "Yay!" He's
Yep.
feeding the fiend, I guess, but everybody's happy to get the cigarettes.
Yep. Smokers love to smoke.
But we cut to the pit, and it's pitch black. You hear a voice yelling, "Hey, is anybody up there? I need to talk to somebody." And then you see the lid open. It just big circle kind of shifts to the side, and you see Deacon's face looking down in this black void. Then you see a little man, a little skinny, old, wispy looking man
In a boat.
standing standing in a boat. And this man is credited as depth gauge.
That's his job.
Yep, and that's we find out that's I mean, that's one of the things they do. People don't have names, or if they do have names, it's what they do. But he's like, "Hey, we've got an issue. I'm telling you right now, we have exactly 4 feet 9 inches of black stuff left, and black stuff is oil. So they are on an oil tanker. That is their base. That's where they're getting the fuel from. That's where they're parsing that out from, and they have the equipment there to repair what they need. So, is it far fetched and ludicrous? Of course, but that's their reasoning.
Right. Because after hundreds of years, those resources would have been spent long ago.
Yes, probably, if it was found right away, I mean,
Yeah, I guess it floods and everything drifts, so
yeah,
yeah, you could have hundreds of years of stumbling on new tankers.
yeah, which is what I'm sure because, later we'll see the top of this tanker, and they've got some of they got shipping crates along the edges to kinda help box things in, but I'm sure they must have found a shipping boats and shipping containers that had the cigarettes and supplies they have. Yeah, so after the depth gauge tells him how much is left, he kinda spits at the guy and closes the lid back, or, spits at the guy and kind of talks to his numbers guy and everything else. They're talking about it's about 3 refuels. They can burn through what they have left in about 2 lunar cycles. They are at the end of their ropes at this point. They basically what Nord says is they've outgrown this place. They need something new. And so what Deacon does is he cancels tractor pulls. He's like, no more fun stuff until we find the girl. And what you get from all of this and everything, that they have not been conserving what they have, they've just been using it willy-nilly, but they're getting to the point of conservation. They've gotta hold what they've got. So he's like, "Okay, no more tractor pulls, no more other raids. Everything is focused on finding the girl. We need that map. That is our end game. If this lasts what we have, great, but we need land." Deacon lights up a cigarette, flicks his match to the open pit, to which the doctor jumps over and grabs the grabs the match, and Deacon's like, "Good catch," and he closed the lid on the pit.
I like this villain that Dennis Hopper plays. I
Yes.
do not like him in this movie.
Like I said, it's very totally different from the established world. I mean, you get this established world, the trading, the people, how they're acting, the everybody's desperate to get stuff, and then you cut to these guys who feel like they're in a different movie sometimes. There's sometimes when it works and it feels cohesive, like when they first got there for the battle. I mean, okay, I get this. This is their group that works with the world. They've got bits of machinery and are attacking places. Then you get more into it, like, okay, these guys are insane. Like, oh, Dennis Hopper's been in a different movie. Okay,
Yeah, which I get what they were going for. It just they missed the mark on it for me.
yeah. At this point, we head back to the trimaran with the heroes, and they're going about doing boat stuff. They're sewing things, they're picking things out of the water, they're just doing stuff. And the mariner finds Enola's drawings on the boat. She's been drawing on the hull, drawing on the mast, drawing wherever she can have a surface to draw on, and he does not like that. He's upset about it. It's his boat. He likes it the way it is. He doesn't want people drawing on it. And where did you get those crayons from? Those are my crayons. Don't touch my stuff. And he just yells at her, takes the crayons, and starts trying to wipe it off.
Yeah. Completely fair reaction.
Yeah. And as she walks away, she kind of pulls out another crayon from her clothes, as if she still has one.
Yes, and she's going to go draw with it.
Yeah. And Helen's like, well, she doesn't know the rules of the boat. And he's like, well, if she wants to stay here, you're going to teach her the rules of the boat. So we get into one of those sailing time passage montages where day, night, different angles of the boat. They're just going, and we cut to the mariner kind of sitting on the side eating the. He's sitting in his little chair on one of the pontoons. He's got his tomato plant in his lap, and he's pulling leaves off and eating the leaves. I saw him put a leaf in his mouth. I'm like, is he eating the leaves off that thing? He's like, yes, he's eating the leaves off the little tomato plant. Oh, because I don't know if I mentioned that earlier, but when they were leaving the atoll, the tomato plant was just kind of floating in the water. So I reached down and grabbed it to make the grab for the tomato plant to make sure he had that.
Yes, he did. He grabbed the tomato plant.
But yeah, he has it. He's eating the leaves off of it, and Nola, she's poking the bear.
Yeah, I was gonna say she's very bold.
Yes, I mean, we find out, and she talks a lot, and she's just standing there looking at him, like, "I'm not scared of you. How many people have you killed?" She's just peppering him with questions, talking to him, like, "I'm not scared of you. You know, I told Helen you'd be a lot. I told Helen you'd be less ugly if you cut your hair."
It's making it worse.
At this point, he's like, "I don't have to take this." He stands up, he picks her up, and tosses her overboard.
Yeah, he was planning to do that anyway,
Yeah.
and that's what leads me to believe is when he said, "Just throw her over now." He was absolutely serious.
Yeah, he's just sitting there eating his leaves, and she comes over and starts poking him.
She's being completely unreasonable.
At this point, Helen comes running over. It's like, "What are you doing? She can't swim." She slaps him and then jumps in the water after her. And you see this look on his face after he's been slapped. You can see he's like, "Do I just go?"
He's thinking about just going.
You can see he's thinking about it. He does a good job portraying that. But what he does is he turns around, picks them both up. Actually, he doesn't even pick them up. He just kind of goes by them, and Helen kind of swims over and grabs onto the back of the boat, and they pull themselves up.
He gives them the opportunity to get
Oh yeah,
back on the boat.
yes, yes. He gives
He's
them the opportunity.
Yes, he's not going to go get them and stop for them, but he's all right. I'm gonna come by you, and if you can get on the boat, I guess you can come back.
But they're on the boat. She's yelling at him like, what? Why?" But he's just like, "Shut up! I hear something." And off in the distance, you see the airboat, the plane.
In this part, it's the first point in the movie where I actually laughed out loud. Where that's she's like, "Oh, smokers," because it's smokers, duh.
Yeah.
And Enola reaches out and waves, and he slaps her in the back of the head.
Yeah. So Helling suggests running for it. He's like, "The sails are down. We're not going anywhere right now. They'll catch up to us before we get going." So the plane's coming. Nola's waving at him, and this is where we see the pilot looking down at them. And so there's two people in the plane. It's a small plane. It's the pilot and a gunner, and the pilot is Jack Black.
Yes, it is. And neither Rachel or I noticed. I forgot that Jack Black was in the movie, and I didn't even look for him.
At this point, he was just getting started. It was this and Never Ending Story 2 or 3.
There were three of those.
Yeah.
Huh.
But yeah, so the pilot's looking down there. He's like, "Hey, that's great." She's waving to us. And the gunner just starts lighting them up. Everybody's trying to get to cover. Helen grabs a Nola and they start getting to one side, and the Mariner jumps below and she's like, "Coward." For whatever reason, she thinks this man isn't going to defend the place.
Right, like he's one to run.
Right, he's gonna hide. He's down there grabbing the harpoon guns, grabbing ropes, and what she does is runs over to the front of the boat where the big harpoon gun is, aims it at the plane, and at this point the gunner stops shooting, he's reloading. She's aiming at the plane. Mariner comes out and starts aiming his harpoon gun at the plane, and then he sees Helen doing what she's doing. He's like, "No!" But as he says no, she shoots, which is a great shot, by the way.
Killer shot.
She pierces the plane and the gunner, killing him. So he's just kind of in there. But the problem is that front harpoon is tethered to the boat. So now the plane and the boat are hooked together.
And both the Mariner and Jack Black shift priorities to disconnecting from each other.
Yes, because the plane is now in a spiral, spinning around the boat with the tether wrapping up the mast and all the lines starting to get closer and closer to each other. And then the tether's getting closer. So eventually that plane is going to come and crash into the boat, basically. So the mariner's scrambling up the mast to get at the rope to get it cut out because the harpoon gun dislodges from the front of the ship. Otherwise, you just run up there, but it dislodges and gets caught up in the mast and all the lines. So it's held at the top of the mast. So he's got to go up there to cut it loose. At the same time, the pilot Jack Black, he's leaning out the he's leaning out the window or the door, the hole inside where he gets in, and he's trying to shoot the rope. And he shoots a few times. The mariner can't quite reach it from where he's at. The rope's a little farther out from where he can reach. But lucky shot, the pilot gets off. It snaps the rope. He kind of takes off one way, and the boat catapults the mariner off into the water.
Yeah, dude, he gets launched.
Yeah. But he climbs back onto the boat just as the harpoon gun dislodges. Gravity pulls it down and breaks one of the nets on the boat.
Yep,
And he is upset.
extremely upset.
And he is a little aggressive and forceful.
A little.
Very, but he gets his knife out. And Helen thinks he's gonna kill her, and he kind of forces her to the ground, and he just starts hacking at her hair, cutting her hair off. And as he does that, he's like, "Don't ever touch anything on my boat again." And now
Mm,
she's got this mangled little haircut, and Enola yells at him like, "She said she's sorry. You're supposed to say something too."
yeah, little kid mouths off
We cut to the both the girls sitting on the boat quietly.
with their new haircuts.
Nola had a bunch of braids in her hair, and it was about shoulder length, and now it's almost Tinkerbell pixie style. Not style, but that length where it's just kind of puffy.
Yeah, and good on that because this movie has, I would say, crossed a lot of lines as far as violence towards women and children.
Yes.
And so I'm really glad that they decided not to show Kevin Costner's character pinning down the 8-year-old girl and slicing her hair off with a knife.
No, it was a good cut to get the point across.
Yes.
So he's going about doing stuff, and he's about to climb the mast again, and he looks back at the girls like, "Did you say something?" And they're like, "No." They're quiet, they're scared, but they're on a boat and not dead, so they're complying for the moment.
Right.
Then we cut back to the smokers. Deacon's talking, and the pilot's kind of out of it. I mean, all the smokers are kind of out of it a little bit, but the pilot's just kind of sitting there doing his thing while Deacon's talking with his leader group, I guess you call him. He's got the doctor who's got an air tank and the little nose things on him all the time. He's got the ledger guy. He's got Toby. He's there all the time now. The kid that said his eye looked like crap.
Right. Yeah. No, Toby's good people.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, but they're talking. Nord is there too, the puffy haired guy from the beginning.
Yeah. The guy who was actually the smoker spy.
Yes, the guy who's actually the smoker spy. So they're all talking about where they found the boat, and he's like, "Okay, this Mariner guy's smart. He is gonna think that we think that he's gonna change course because he's been spotted, right? You're spotted, you change course, you deviate. But this guy's smart. So what we're gonna do is go to where he was gonna go anyway, because he's not gonna change course because he's gonna think that we're gonna think that he's changing course."
They don't know that we know they know we know, you know?
Exactly. So, but they're looking at the map, and from where they started the directory, they said, "So we're gonna meet him here at this outpost. That looks like that is where he would be going." They point to a map and said, "This is where we think he's headed because it's in line with the trajectory." Because Deacon thinks the Mariner thinks, yeah, yeah. So they don't. They're gonna try and ambush him because they think that he won't think that they're there. So this is where we go to back to the boat again. We see the Mariner looking out with his spyglass. He spots a drifter. He's got his big green flag up, which means he's ready for trading. He's a trader, and he almost doesn't stop. Helen's like, "It's a trader, right? Don't you guys always stop for each other?" And he's like, "Okay." So they stop, and this guy has been out water for way too long, not having a lot of food, not having a lot of supplies. He's a little sunburnt in the head.
Sunburnt in the head.
He's losing his mind a little bit.
I accept this term.
But he's like, "Hey, I'm here to trade." And from the attack, there's a leak in the boat. The Mariner mentions this, like, "We're taking on water. We've got to get to some place so I can get resin to fix it." That's probably why they was going to the outpost. But with this guy here, he's like, "Hey, do you have resin?" He's like, "No, I don't have resin. No one has resins. You can't afford resin anyway." So, and Helen asked for food. He's like, "I haven't eaten in forever, so no food."
Yeah, he doesn't have much of anything.
No, he doesn't. But they start trading. Helen trades her necklace for a fishing pole, and the Mariner is traded for a few things, not a lot. But then he's like, "Ooh, I've got something you'll like," and he pulls out this little thing that he's carrying around his neck, like a plastic bottle, a big one that had like cheese puffs or something in it in modern times.
Yeah, like you'd see at Walmart.
Yeah, so he unscrews the lid and pulls out, he's like, "I got paper," and he's rubbing it on his face and sniffing it. He's like, "You want paper? No one has paper." And he's like, "How much for the women?"
Yeah, we get into a very uncomfortable scene.
Yes, it's a very uncomfortable scene, and we're gonna go through this quickly.
Yes, with as little detail as possible would probably be best.
Yes, Helen says, "No one owns us, we're not for sale." He's like, "Everything's for sale," but that's that's either here or there. He owns the Mariner owns the boat, they own themselves. But then he does say, "Yeah, you can have a half hour with Helen for the paper."
Yes, he rents out Helen for paper.
Yeah. And so he's like, "Deal." And this is going to be quick too. The Mariner gets paper, but says it has to be on his boat, the trimaran, not the other guy's boat. And he's like, "Sure, whatever." They go below. Mariner's looking at the paper, and then goes below and tells him the deal's off. It gets a little creepy down there, but basically he's like, "You know what? The deal's off. Get out of here." And he's like, "No, no, you made a deal." And Helen heads up while the Drifter pulls a knife. Mariner pulls his knife.
So to touch on that a little bit, while Helen was down there alone with the merchant, she was not having it, and she pulled a knife to stab the merchant,
Oh yes, yes, she did.
and that's how the merchant ended up with the knife.
Yes, that's right. He took it from her.
Yeah,
That's right. Sorry, I was eager to get through it quickly and missed
right.
stuff.
And the only reason I went back is because that was important to the plot.
So yeah, he didn't have a knife. She pulled one on him. Now he has a knife. The two guys are squaring up. You hear a ruckus below, and then the drifter comes out, looking around. He turns around. You see the big gash on his back that's bleeding, and he collapses dead in the net. Mariner comes up right behind him, starts basically just goes over, starts looting the ship. He rips the necklace off first and gives it to Helen. He starts looting the boat, pushes the drifter's body in the water, and then grabbed the fishing rod she got, threw it overboard, and said, "This is junk. You won't catch anything with it." Now he's in a weird headspace. He's angry. He's feeling guilty.
Because he had that moment of where he's like, I don't care about these people at all, and then he, makes that really awful deal,
Yeah,
and then shortly after it, he has that attack of conscience
yeah.
where he's like, oh,
It didn't help that he was sitting up there next to Enola either for his
right,
conscience. He's just sitting there next to the girl. And he's like, "Crap," which is good. That's the right decision.
yeah, he needed to go and undo the mess that he did, and so now he kind of has this thing of like, as much as I don't want to care about these people, I do.
Yeah, they're weaseling their way in. But he goes down below and starts grabbing the harpoon and stuff. And Helen's like, "Well, tell us how to fish. We're hungry. We need food. Teach us, and we'll do it." And he comes out, hooks up his battery to his little pulley system for the tow cable. He comes up and says, "Don't touch anything." Grabs the cable and jumps in the water. Man of few words, so a few more words would be helpful.
Yeah, it's a very much need to know to where he only provides the information that they need to know.
Yeah. But yeah, he jumps in the water. He's using himself as bait. He's kind of flailing around a little bit as he's out there, and they're just watching him for a second. And this sea creature comes up and
Yeah, just gobbles them up.
and as it swallows him or gobbles him up, he hits the harpoon. It's like a dual harpoon. It shoots out both sides. It kills the critter. They've got it towed up now. And we cut to them eating around this little cooking fire. He's putting the meat on it. The kid is eating. Helen's eating.
Oh, she's stuffing her face.
This whole scene, she has a mouthful of food. Just nom nom nom.
And it actually, honestly, it looked really good.
It did look good.
Fish is not my favorite meat, but like, maybe it's also the fact that it's in a survivalist setting. So that
Yeah,
always makes any kind of food, any kind of sustenance just look inherently good. I mean, because she's mowing down, and it's like this rich, fatty
yeah,
fish thing, and it's chewy and melty, and she's just like shoving it in, and it's just making that flubbery food sound,
yeah,
and it
yeah. So
still sounds good to me. I don't know,
it it looked
full of
good.
flavor.
Yeah, but she's humming away, singing a little bit, and he's looking at her, and she's like, "You don't like my singing too? It's because you can't sing." That's what Helen said. Still poking the bear and throwing Helen under the bus.
Yeah, not a real smart kid.
Yeah, and
No
so
survival instincts.
right, they're talking around the fire, and he's like, "Well, you don't listen." And she's like, "What do you mean I don't listen?" She's like, "You're too loud. You don't hear what's going on around you."
His whole point is you don't hear the world around you, and he's quiet to observe and appreciate all of his surroundings, and she is just not.
Yeah. Yeah, she stops talking for a second, like, "I don't hear anything." It's like, "'Cause you're too loud, you're moving too much, you're not listening past yourself." And then she comments on his feet. She's like, "I wish I had feet like that so I could swim too." Helen kinda chokes on her food. And then they talk about how people at the toll thought she was a freak because she didn't know how to swim in this world, and he was like, "Well, maybe they were right." And she's like, "Well, maybe they were right about you." And the conversation that kinda went good, then kinda went bad again, and she takes off. Everybody's just kinda grumpy then at the end. But a little bit later, he's up at the where the harpoon at the front was, fiddling with the lighter he found earlier. Looks like he was cleaning it up a little bit, making it nicer. And Helen comes over and hands him a piece of paper and a crayon. He's like, "Enola wanted you to have this." Gave the crayon to him. And this is where we find out that Helen is not Enola's mother. She just took care of her because while everybody thought she was weird, she thought she was interesting. Enola draws what she sees. He's looking at this picture the whole time as she's talking. He's like, this is where we're at. She's not my daughter, but I'm taking care of her, and people didn't like her there, so I had to keep an eye on her." And so he hands the crayon back to her and says, "I'm not giving this to her." And she's like, "It's a loan, right?" And he's like, "Yes, it's a loan." And she walks away, and then we see what she drew, and it was a picture of the three of them all holding hands.
Oh, okay. That's what it was.
Yeah, yeah, it was a picture of the 3 of them holding hands, and he's like, "The mouthy little so and so kid is starting to get to him."
And the movie does not do a good job at portraying the character change.
So this watching this movie, the whole time, I was thinking, I mean, this would be a fantastic show. You get
Yeah.
long form, you get more exploration, you get more in depth in the world. I mean, even maybe the first 2 or 3 episodes are just the mariner doing his thing, salvaging, meeting people in the water, stopping at a couple of ports, getting to learn these characters any more, and you can see that passage of time, the growth, the change. I think it would be a fantastic show.
A great show. And they'd set up the smokers as well.
Yeah, and we don't even see the
So
smokers maybe for, like, 10 episodes or something like that.
yeah, or you can do the Mariner and the Smokers simultaneously in the episodes before they've even met each other.
True.
So that way, when you have these smokers that just kind of exist in their own little thing, and they're all chaotic, and then they stumble upon the outpost, and then you have the introduction to the rest of the world. So it's these own characters that have lived on their own, and then they meet the actual world, and so the way they are makes a lot more sense and is more cohesive to the world.
Right, but yeah, it did I definitely think it would be a better show for that long form post-apocalyptic thing that's a lot of stuff you can is glossed over in the movie, and they can just I think anyway. Oh, yeah, so he's looking at the picture, we fade to black, and then the morning comes, and you see the mariner and Enola in the water swimming around together. He's kinda got her, kinda showing her how to swim. The noise wakes up Helen, and she's like, "Oh, what are you doing in the water? Those monsters things will eat you." And he's like, "No, no, they're asleep right now. I'm just showing her how to swim."
Yeah, which and that's what I'm saying. Like the character change is pretty poorly done because it's like the last scene was him. He's like, I guess this kid's okay, maybe.
Yeah.
And now they're best friends, and it's like what that's a 180 transition overnight, literally.
Yeah, definitely think some things would have a little bit more breathing room, but anyway, he's all happy with the kid now.
Yeah, suddenly.
They get back in the boat, they continue on, and we see this floating trading outpost that's out there. Helen is asking about dry land again. It's like, "Well, are we going to dry land?" He's like, "The boat's leaking. I need resin. We got to fix this thing. We need repairs. We got to stop here first." And he starts calling out to the post in Portuguese. He says it's their own language. It's what they speak.
Portuguese and Greek combined.
Yeah, a combination of the 2. But as he's yelling out to him, he looks down and notices a patch of oil in the water, and he reaches down and he's like, "Yeah, that's oil." He feels it, and he runs downstairs. And then we get a better look at the outpost because Helen's looking through the spyglass at it, and it looks very suspicious. The people are standing at weird angles. All their hands are in the air, and
It looks like a Jim Henson creation.
yeah, but then we go to the outpost and we see that everybody's dead. They're being held up by ropes, some of them with their hands in the air, and they goes upstairs and we see that the smokers, Deacon's up there with his little binoculars, which he only uses one side of because he only has one eye now.
Right. But okay, so they kill all the people at the outpost.
Yes.
They use an intricate string and pulley system to
Yeah,
make
so
them
they've got guys pulling the things to make it look like these guys are waving their arms. Not all
Right.
of them, but some of the ones in the uppers.
Sure. But at the same time, it would be more realistic if they'd have just dumped the bodies and the smokers had just posed as the traitors.
Yes,
That would have been the smarter way to go.
very much so.
So that I mean, it's kind of stupid.
Well, a little bit, yeah, but we we cut back so the mariner's down below, and this is where we find out another cool thing about the boat is he got a periscope that goes down under the water so he can look below the surface.
Yes, I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. So he's looking around and he sees a bunch of smokers on their jet skis being held down by weights just under the surface of the water.
And how were they breathing?
They got breathing tubes going up to the surface.
Okay.
So they're small enough you don't notice them at the top, but they're able to breathe. So they're down there all ready to go. And he comes up. He's like, "Nope, we're going." He pulls a lever and they start to turn. And Deacon's like, "What are they doing?" Oh, he spotted it. And he's like, "Spring the trap. We're getting them anyway. It's not ideally where we want them, but we got this." So they spring the trap. The smokers cut the cords on their holding their jet skis down. They pop out of the water and they start circling the boat. They've got a big tow net too. They're going to tangle up the boat and kind of hold it down. So they're coming at the boat, and the mariner's like, "Follow me, girls!" And he runs over to one side, pulls out this little platform that leans out over the water and starts leaning on it and pulling it, and the girls are leaning on it and they're putting the weight on the one pontoon so the other pontoon comes out of the water a little bit, and it skims over the net, so they miss it on that side. Deacon's watching like, what are they doing? And he sees it and they run to the other side like, come on, one more time. And they run over to the other pontoon to lift the boat up, and the other pontoon clears the net almost, and it catches on the back of the pontoon, but then it breaks free, and the net surrounds and catches the guys on the jet ski. They all get caught up in it, and Deacon's frustrated. All the jet skiers got caught up in their own trap. The boat's sailing away, and the mariner flips a switch, and this little cannon pops out of the front of the boat and shoots this thing up into the sky, and it explodes, and you see it's a big kite, big wind catching kite to help give them a little more oomph and speed. It's his last ditch effort plan for the boat. Another cool thing about the boat.
Yeah. No, the boat is definitely survivalist's paradise.
Yes. But Deacon's flustered. He's upset. He's yelling. He's like, "You've got to do something, do it yourself," basically, and grabs the rifle from Nord, lines it up, and shoots. And you see the mariner gets hit in the side. He's like, "Ha, I winged him." So the mariner goes down, but they're still getting away. And Deacon's looking at him with his binoculars and sees the blood going in the water. He's like, "All right, get me the trackers." I forgot to look it up if there's any information on that. I have no idea what that means. It
Nope.
didn't make any sense. It doesn't ever play out. So what it was, probably in the extended cut, but right now he just says, "Get me the trackers." We cut to the mariner. He's on the floor. He's patching himself up, and he's hitting the realization that the smokers aren't after him; they're after the girl. So he's yelling at Helen. He's like, "What's going on? What's with the girl? What's with the tattoo? What's going on here?" And she's like, "It's a map to dry land. That must be what they want." And he's like, "Dry land's a myth. It's not out there." And she's like, "You're lying. You've been there. You have the dirt. You have stuff on this boat that no one's ever seen before because it's just not in the world anymore.
Right.
You've got to be getting this stuff from somewhere. You've got to be going to dry land."
Which either means one of two things. He's the only one that knows where dry land is, and as we show up in a little bit, he's the only mutant.
Yes. But she mentions that with the dirt and everything, the only time she's seen any dirt darker than that is in the basket that they found Enola in when she was a kid, baby, or young child. It had darker dirt. But yeah, basically she's like, "You have to have been to dry land. You have to have seen it." And he's like, "Fine. You want to see dry land? I'll show you dry land." Which at this point seems like a bad time to do this. But you know what? Movie's got a movie.
It's terrible time to do this.
Yes, but movie's got a movie, so they stop. We cut to the boat is stopped. Everything's put down, so it's not going anywhere. And you see in the water this thing's floating. It's a makeshift diving bell. Do you know what that is?
So you could go underwater without having to have all the equipment because you create an air pocket that you can breathe in.
Yes. So he's tells her to get in the water and get in the air bubble, and tells the kid not to touch anything, and they go underwater, leaving Enola just sitting on the boat. And as they're going down, Mariner's lighting off these flares so she can kind of see what's going on.
It seems wasteful to just light them and drop them, doesn't it?
Yeah, but they kind of sync with them, so it gives them an ambiance of light.
You could take one with you and give the ambiance of light as well.
True, but with movie magic, we get to see a whole lot more than she probably sees. But we see a city. It's a city.
Before we get into the city, so they're
Yes.
so far down now that light is not getting to them.
Yes.
You know how much water pressure that is?
A lot.
Okay, so he's apparently resistant to all that water pressure, as
Yes.
well as her and the bell.
Yes. Suspension of disbelief at this point.
Right, I'm just saying they're going down like really far,
Yeah.
and they would all be crushed by the
It depends
pressure
on
of the
how
water.
high the city was.
Yeah, but still, if they're going down far enough to where sunlight's not reaching,
Right. Right. They are amongst skyscrapers at this point in this city.
yeah,
Large buildings, so they're underwater. They get down to the bottom, he picks up some dirt and kinda drops it so she can see, and basically like, "Here's your dry land." We cut back to Enola really quick, who sees 2 sharks come under the water, and maybe those are the trackers that he was talking about. Send out the sharks because there's blood in the water.
that makes sense.
That makes sense. It makes sense for what we're doing right now, that what the trackers would be is these sharks are chasing the blood in the water.
Yes, we see sharks, and your description of maybe they sent the sharks that they just have on hand and followed the sharks to the blood in the water
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yes, that makes the most sense of anything.
Yes. Not that it actually makes sense as a concept, because they just said, oh, send the sharks out. Like, oh, yeah, let's just get the sharks that we have on hand hanging out.
But while they're underwater, we're seeing the side skyscrapers, an old sub that's on its side that has been crashed, some ski lifts.
A McDonald's.
Yeah, it's a little bit of everything.
There was no McDonald's.
I know there was no McDonald's. I believe McDonald's did have toys of this though.
I'm sure they did.
But they get back to the surface. Helen's getting out of the water. She's like, I had no idea. I didn't know there was civilization below us. I thought I don't know what I thought, but that's crazy. I didn't know. And he's like, no one does. No one goes down there.
Right, which reiterates the point I made of like, he's the only mutant.
Yeah,
Because otherwise there would be more going down,
right.
and it would be more well known.
We hear the smokers motors rolling up. They start rolling up on the ship. And she's like, "Can we make a run for it?" And Deacon is already on the boat. He comes up from below and is like, "Oh, you got two options on that. No way and not at all."
He's staying in character.
Yeah,
It's just too bad that character belongs in a different movie.
yeah. But he's like, "So where's the kid? That's what we not. That's all we want. Well, whoever talks first will kill the other one. Come on, let us know where the kid is." And he is more inclined to appeal to the Mariners. I guess his nature or something. He's like, "I'll take her out. I'll burn your boat down if you don't tell me. Just I'll let you go and you can do on your way. Just where's the kid?" And they're all kind of like, "No, we're not. We're not." They're both not telling anything, and they don't really have any idea where she's at either
Right.
until the mariner sees her kind of wave or her arm flail or foot flail, and she has crawled up under one of the pontoon supports.
Okay, so she actually did find a good hiding spot.
Yeah, yeah, she found a great hiding spot. So the each pontoon has two long rods or two long supports that go from the pontoon to the main hull of the boat, and those are hollow. So she has crawled up underneath those. There's a hole in the bottom of them for airflow and water flow, so nothing gets trapped, and she's up in there. But in a brilliant move, Deacon's like, "Fine, I'll just shoot you both," and fires his gun in the air, and the girl comes out, is like, "No, no, I'm here, don't kill my friends." And he's like, "Ha ha ha, I tricked you." Grab the girl, he's like, "Turn her upside down, I need to see this map."
Why was upside down necessary?
I don't know, but they're holding her upside down. He's looking at the map. The mariner and Helen are just kind of standing there for a second, and he grabs her and jumps in the water. They start shooting at him. They grab the girl and go to the other boat, and he's like, "We're gonna go into the water." She's like, "I can't breathe like you." She's like, "I'll breathe for both of us." And they go underwater, and he's breathing in the water and breathing air into her. They lock mouths, and he's a scuba tank for her, basically. We don't know how long they stay under there, but they set the boat on fire. It burns. The fire goes out and then they come up.
So it was a while.
It's been a few hours. I guess that I mean, they wanna make sure that they weren't caught. So, yeah, after several hours, they come back up. They're looking around the boat. and it's just a few floating pieces left. Part of the hull, a couple pontoons, most of it's gone. It's in shambles. It's you can't fix that, and it makes me sad. We now cut back to Deacon and the smokers, and he's like, "What are you doing? We're not animals. Get those shackles off her." He's trying to be all friendly to the kid to get what he wants. And he's
Yeah,
like, "Hey, how you doing, kid? You want to come sit on my lap? Come on over here." And she's not having any of his placating. And he's like, "Well, how about a cigarette?" It's never too young to start.
horrifying.
Post-apocalyptic. It's fine.
Fair, yeah. I guess they're not really concerned. They don't know the health risks of smoking because no one lives that long anymore.
Right. Although the doctor knows something. He's got an air tank.
Yeah, I guess.
He's got the hose in his nose that goes over his ears, and it's got a tank on his front.
Yeah, so
But he's asking about the map. He's like, "So what's this map? Do you know how to read it? Can you teach me to read it?" And she's like, "No." And she's like, "The mariner's gonna come for me. He's my friend. He's gonna come for me, and you're gonna be in trouble." And I'm gonna be in trouble. He's not here. He's not gonna do anything. And by the time he gets here, he can collect what's left of you in a bucket.
yeah. Deacon's patience for this kid is definitely wearing thin.
Yeah, he goes from all friendly, like, "Come here, we're not monsters," to, "I'm gonna put you in a bucket. What's left of you."
Yeah, got dark fast.
Yeah, he's not getting anywhere with her. We cut back to what's left of the boat. The mariner and Helen are sitting there, and she's like, "We're gonna die here, aren't we?" And he just looks at her. She's like, "Yeah, we're gonna die here." And then they start making out
Whoopi,
a little bit, and then they get their swerve on. Yes, Whoopi.
there's this they get their swerve on. Yeah, yeah.
But it's family
You
friendly.
family friendly as long as we're using euphemisms, right?
Yes. But yeah, they get down to business. Um
They're not doing their taxes.
it fades to black, and then it cuts back to the mariner. He's up now. She's asleep, and he's looking through the wreckage and starts pulling things out of the hole. And he finds a little picture that she had drawn of an evergreen tree, like a pine tree. And he looks at that for a second, and he looks at that for a second, and then scrambles to a little box, lock box that he has. He opens it up, and you can see he collects paper. He's got old magazines, he's got other pieces of paper in there, but he's flipping through an old National Geographic, and he sees the same tree, the pine tree that he's looking at. And then it cuts to him pulling out more supplies, more boxes that he's bringing up. And Helen wakes up and is talking about dry land and how she used to think dry land was an island and it just kind of floated with the wind, which made it so hard to find because if it keeps moving and no one can really locate it if it keeps moving. And then she misses the sounds of Enola, and it's getting kinda sad, and then we hear Gregor's voice. Out of nowhere, he's like, "Hello," and he's above them. He's like, "Hey, it was good of you to set your boat on fire so I could find you. I followed the smoke."
Yeah, twist that knife a little bit.
Yeah. He's talking to him, he's like, "Is that the gill man?" And
Gill
he's like,
man,
"He didn't say that, that was me."
I know.
He called him something else, which I didn't write down.
Gill man works. We we could have just called him Gil throughout the whole movie.
Yeah. "Is that the mariner?" Well, I don't know why I just called his name. Or what he is. The mariner's like, "Yeah." I was like, where's the kid?" And she's like, "The smoker's got her." It's like, "Oh, that's unfortunate. Here's a rope. Come on up." So they get
Yeah,
onto his little they crawl up onto his little airship with a few supplies. Yeah?
I like how he's floating up there. He drops the rope down. You add two more full-grown adult humans, and yet that weight addition does not affect the altitude of the flying machine.
Maybe it came down a little bit.
Okay, continue.
Maybe he dropped some of the sandbags too to buoyance the weight out because he had sandbags hanging below it.
Ah,
But yeah, they get up on the flying thing, and he heads to a little circle of boats. A few people who escaped from the atoll had kind of circled up. There's like 8 little boats there, a bunch of people. The enforcer is there, the guy that he had saved from the smokers with the hatchet, or not the hatchet, the machete that he threw. So they get back, and they don't like most of the people don't like that they're there. They don't want the mariner there. They don't want Helen there. They don't care about the kid. They don't wanna go after the kid. I'm like, "Well, if they go after the kid, we can get to dry land." So they're all kind of they're talking. The mariner's just kinda gearing up. He's going through what supplies he has. He's taking a couple things from other boats. They've got a one of the smokers jet skis there too that he's putting stuff on. And Gregor's talking to the mariner because he's looking over the mariner's papers. And he's like, these papers have the same markings as the tattoo on the girl, and I figured out their numbers. They're coordinates for an old system that people used to use called latitude and longitude. But it doesn't make any sense. And the mariner's like, it's upside down. And he's like, "What do you mean it's upside down?" They come to the realization that with everything that has happened, the poles have flipped, so they are looking in the wrong spot via the sun and the stars. I don't understand it. It's just what they said. The poles flipped, so they need to look at everything in reverse from what it originally was.
Because north is south and south is north and west is east and east is west.
Yes. So now the sun is coming up in the west instead of in the east because it's all flipped and floppy.
Right. And that makes sense that he would know that the poles switched in the National Geographic. Therefore, he would be the only one to decipher the
Right.
map.
And he's been seeing things on the bottom. He's been figuring things out. He's the only one that knows a lot of stuff.
Right. Which again, he's got to be the only mutant.
Right. So everybody in the little encampment's like, we don't care about the kid. We don't care about anything. We're just gonna do our thing. Mariner's like, okay, see ya. If she's still alive, I'll bring her back. He hops on his little jet ski and takes off.
Yeah.
And Helen's like, we can't let him do this alone, right? Right, guys? And Gregor's like, we're not going to. He looks up at his little flying machine, and we cut back to the smokers. They're still trying to figure out the map. They've got Enola kind of lie down, so they're looking at her back, and he's like, if we could just lay it flat, that would help. Because right now, her back's all bumpy. Like, what do you want to do? It's like, well, I want to cut this out. I want to stretch it out, and then we can look at it better. And they're like, huh. And then Deacon's like, okay, I've got to adjust the people. And he moves over to this picture on the wall. It's a portrait. It says Captain Joe Hazelwood. And he calls him St. Joe. And he's like, we are close. After centuries of shame, we are close.
So they're a cult.
Yes, he is the deacon of this place. He's a spiritual leader. This is when you find this out during his speech when he gets introduced. But back to Joe, Captain Joe Hazelwood for a second. Do you know who Captain Joe Hazelwood is?
I do not.
He is the captain of the Exxon Valdez.
Ah, which is the boat that they are on.
Yes, which is the oil tanker that leaked in the 80s.
Right. The big Exxon
Yeah, the big Exxon oil
oil
leaks.
spill and
Yeah. So this is the Exxon Valdez. This is the oil tanker that they're on. I didn't pick up on it before, but they referred to it as they referred to their base as the D's before. So Valdez. As soon as I saw that picture, I'm like, I know the name, and it's like it's the Exxon Valdez. So at this point, we cut to the mariner. He's riding on the jet ski through the fog and the mist, and he's coming up to the oil tanker, and he kind of parks below it. You can see years of barnacle growth along the side of this thing. It's rusted all to heck and back. There's holes all over it, and he starts using these holes to climb up the side of this boat.
yes, I saw that and I went, nope, no, no. No. He's barefoot and no gloves.
He can take the
That
pressure. He can take the crushing depths of the ocean. He can withstand the cuts of that.
no. That
That is
man's
fair.
gonna need a tetanus shot. A lot of
Maybe
them.
he's climbing up the boat and starts hearing people chanting and cheering and just making a lot of noise. And we cut back to the top of the boat. The whole deck is clear. You see the boat. The whole deck is clear. It's got storage shipping containers along the sides, kind of make a wall with little gaps in there where people can come and go. But they've outfitted this thing out. The doctor comes out to so the whole deck is clear, and then you go to where the captain would be, the helm, the big building at the far end. So the doctor comes out on a little balcony that's up there to announce the deacon, their spiritual leader, their benefactor, deacon of the D's is what his official title is called, but he just goes by deacon. And introduce him. Deacon comes out and starts addressing the people after throwing cigarettes, canned food, spam, the things that they've been
Smeat.
finding. Old meat,
It's called Smeat.
meat, old meat, things that they have been finding in shipping containers on shipping vessels that are just floating around.
But yeah, it's basically spam.
Yeah. And then he starts addressing the people. He talks about the visions he's been seeing. And people are like, yeah, we're sick of your visions. What are you going to do for us?
Which never happens in cults.
Uh-uh, not at all. Deacon's telling the people about his vision, about land, how what's next for them, how what he can do for them, and the way to get there. We see that we cut back to the mariner who's looking down over the boat and sees two jet skis ride up on his abandoned jet ski. Smoker's like, "What's this? What's going on here?" And so he dives off the side, clotheslines both the guys in the water, drowns them by staying underwater, and then he is now making his point to get into the boat instead of on the boat. He takes out another smoker when he drives the jet ski up the ramp into him, into their, I guess, mechanic area, their dry dock where they pull all the jet skis into and start working on them. So they have a mechanic that knows how to work all these things as best as they can, just keep them running right. But we cut back to Nord, who's watching Enola. We keep watching the Mariner moving through the ship, killing people and sneaking through. And she's talking to Nord. As you can kind of hear Deacon still talking in the background. He's giving his big speech, but Enola's trying to freak out Nord about her friend, the Mariner, who is
Yes,
coming to get her. And he's like, he's not coming. And this is a great montage of her telling Nord how bad. We want to say bad.
you did.
I did, but you can cut that.
Sure.
This is this is a great scene montage of her describing how awesome her friend the mariner is to Nord and that he's going to be sorry.
Hardcore.
Hardcore, another good word. The doctor comes in and it's like, what's his name? And this is what she says during the montage. I wrote it down and I'm gonna read it because it's
Okay.
really cool. She says he doesn't have a name, so death can't find him. He doesn't have a home or people to care for. He's not afraid of anything, men least of all. He's fast and strong like a big wind. He can hear 100 miles. He can see 100 miles underwater. He can hide in the shadow of a noon sun. He can be right behind you and you wouldn't even know he was there until you're dead.
That sounds like she ripped off a few Chuck Norris jokes.
Exactly. But this whole time while that's going on, he's moving through the bottom of the ship, killing people, making his way to where he can get to her. And at that point, Nord throws the knife at the chair she's sitting in. And it sticks next to her. It feels like he's getting nervous about this. Like, okay, she's freaking me out a little bit.
Yeah, he's done hearing about this.
Yeah. So after he throws the knife, he's like, "Stop." And she's like, "He'll come for me. He will." He's like, "Yeah, I hope he does." And she's like, "Remember you said that." Just her I mean, what she was doing on the boat, poking the bear. She's just there needling these guys. She won't stop talking.
No, and she won't stop trying to make people angry.
Right. This is where Deacon's speech gets to the point about how dry land's their destiny. It's the future for them. There's a child that will lead them to this promised land. And Nord brings out the girl, and everybody cheers, like, "We got the kid." And they show the map, like, "Look, there's a map. Now we got to head there. So let's get this thing going." And everybody cheers and yells, and they shoot their flares in the air, and people start to run. And we see what they're doing. They're running below deck. They're getting to the giant oars. They slide the giant oars out of the boat and they start rowing this thing, which is one of the reasons why this floating oil tanker has so many people on it because it doesn't work anymore. But with all the people, they can row it places, apparently.
Yeah. I mean, and oh, just watching the rowing happen.
Yeah,
Wow. It's a lot.
it gets better.
Tell me how it gets better.
So the doctor comes up, it's like, "Where are we going?" And Deacon's like, "I have no idea. I haven't figured out the map yet. I can't tell them. They'll row for 2 months before they figure out I'm lying."
Yes, I did like that part.
But the point is, he's got the people psyched. He's got them rowing. They're moving towards something. He just needs some time to finish figuring out the map. And as soon as that happens, he can tell them exactly where they're going, tell them they're on their way. But right now, it's just row and be happy. And so they're up there on the balcony talking, and you see a man come out from the shadows, and he starts walking up to where the speech was at. We know it's the Mariner. We can tell it looks like Kevin Costner just in a different outfit because he's gathered things from people as he's walked through. He's got goggles on now. He's got a big coat. He's been collecting things as he's been killing his way through the bottom of the boat. And they're looking at him. He's like, "Who's that? Why aren't you rowing? What are you doing?" And he takes off the goggles and Nord's like, "It's him." She was right. Nola says, "You guys are in so much trouble," and Deacon just smacks her in the back of the head. Like, "Shut up." So he's yelling down to him, like, "You don't wanna do this, come on." And they banter back and forth a little bit. He's like, "I just want the girl." They're like, "You're not gonna get her." And he pulls out a flare and holds it over an opening in the boat. And he's like, "You know what this is, right?" And he looks at him. He looks at what he's holding, and he's holding a flare over a tube that goes down to the pit, which is unfortunate for everybody involved.
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah, that's a bad day.
And he's like, "I can do this. Just give me the girl, and no one burns." Deacon's like, "You're bluffing," and he lights the flare and holds it and still holding it there. It's like, I don't believe you. You're bluffing. You're not going to burn for her." And she's like, "He doesn't bluff. He never bluffs."
Good advice.
Adding more to his myth. And Deacon's like, "You know what? You're not going to drop it. You're not crazy." The manager just kind of smiles and drops it.
Yep, he does. And and what's funny, okay, so he drops it, right? And
Yeah.
everyone's like, "Uh-oh." Except right when it hits, it drops down and, like, the wrinkly old man down there
Yeah.
who's rowing in his boat sees it and goes, "Oh, thank God."
Yeah. He's been done for a long time.
He's he's the only one happy about the current situation.
This is his sweet release.
Well, he lives down there.
He does. He doesn't come out of there. He lives in a little boat. They drop food down him. He can't even smoke because of where he's at, and he's in dark most of the time.
Yeah, unless they need to ask a question.
Yeah, or drop food down to him.
Yeah. So he sees this ball of fire coming down and he's like, "Oh, it's over."
And then chaos erupts on the boat.
I have that written down too. Chaos, just chaos.
Flames shoot everywhere, out the top, out the sides, out the back. It's just boom, flames everywhere. People are running, people are screaming, people are shooting for no reason.
Just 'cause that's what you do.
Yeah, and as chaos breaks out, Anola is sitting up there with Deacon. Everybody's left him. It's just the two of them. And she's like, "Was this your big vision?"
Just adding insult to injury.
Yep, but people are fleeing. They're trying to escape. They're on their little jet skis getting out. Some people are looking for the Mariner. Nord's looking for the Mariner. He's in the car just driving. He's like, "I've always wanted to drive this thing." And the Mariner has left the deck and went inside to get up to where the speech was. So he's moving through people, killing as he goes. Nord's driving around and crashes the car because he's never driven it.
Oh, that's right. He's like, "I always wanted to drive this thing."
Yep, but eventually he kills his way up to the balcony where Deacon and Enola were, but they're not there. He looks over the edge and then turns back to see Nord sitting there. He's all bloodied up because he crashed the car and cut himself. He's like, "Haha, I got you!" And he goes to shoot the Mariner, and click click click, his gun's out, which is fortunate for the Mariner, who then turns around and shoots him with the shotgun he has.
Yeah, makes short work of that.
Yeah, but then he sees that Deacon and Enola are down on the deck getting into the plane, which Deacon says he doesn't really know how to fly. He asks her if she knows how to fly.
Again, the wrong villain for this movie.
Yeah, but they get in there. He starts it up and starts driving down the length of the boat so he can take off. And we see the Mariner. He grabs his harpoon gun that's got the coiled rope on it. He shoots it. It goes all the way down the end of the boat and gets stuck on something. So he puts it on a pallet of supplies and shoves it over the side so it pulls taut. And then he grabs this anchor hook thing and zip lines down, which is a really cool scene. And then you watch it and he's like, "Oh, he's going faster than the plane now." Because he gets ahead of him.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fast.
Yeah, physics, right?
Physics is clearly on vacation for this movie.
Yeah, but he does it. The way the movie plays out is he gets down there and lands before the plane gets by, and he grabs the hook that he got, hooks another cable to it, and then as the plane passes, he jumps over and hooks the hook to the back of the plane where the wheel assembly is, and it rips the wheels off. The plane dips down and crashes into the floor and just kind of slides into the end of the boat where it stops. The Mariner runs over and grabs Enola, who's fine. Deacon is slumped over the steering column. He grabs Enola, they get out, and the Valdez starts sinking. Things are starting to slide on the deck now. Things are coming at him, and we hear Gregor's voice again. As we look up, we see Gregor, Helen, and the Enforcer. who doesn't have a name. He's just the enforcer. They have modded out the flying machine to actually have a boat attached to it instead of just a two-seater or three-seating little thing. Because it was originally built as a three-seater so they could all kind of just the three of them could escape. Now it has a boat on it, so they toss a line down to him. The Mariners got Nola. They start climbing up, and Deacon's alive. He comes running over and jumps onto the rope, starts climbing
It's
as well.
over a 2-hour movie. Do you really need to drag out the ending?
Oh, it goes longer.
I know.
But the airship is sailing away as the Valdez starts to sink, and Deacon's hanging on there. He's trying to get a hold of Nola's foot so he can, in his mind, I get the girl, I'm fine. Or he's just vindictive and wants to kill everybody. Both are both possible. But anyway,
Yeah.
Helen drops something down on him, hits him on the head, and he falls off into the water.
Well, then Enola kicks him in the head,
Yeah, so he gets hit in the head, and then Enola kicks him, and
and he
he ends
falls.
up falling into the water. The Mariner and Enola get up onto the boat, and everything's looking good until Deacon crawls up onto a jet ski. He's got a little gun out. He's pointing up at the airship, and this is where we also see the back of the ship that says Exxon Valdez as it slowly sinks into the water. And back to Deacon as he shoots the airship. He hits one of the cables that's holding the boat to the thing. It shifts, and for some reason, Enola was sitting on the edge. So as it shifts, she tumbles backwards out of the boat and into the water.
And as Rachel points out, that is a long way for a little kid to fall.
Yeah.
But it's just like, why?
One more thing.
Yeah.
Somebody had a cool idea for something, and that's what we're getting now. So Deacon and two other okay, let me explain this because I thought about this as I was watching it. Deacon and two other smokers are on jet skis, kind of in triangular pattern. They're all about equal distance, and they're flooring it to get to the girl. The Mariner has tied a rope around his foot or bungee cord or something, and dives off the boat and says, "Tie this off." Just before he jumps. So Helen's standing there with this rope, and then Enforcer's like, "Dude, tie it off." And he's like, "Oh, okay." So they tie it off, but he bungees down. It stops just as he gets to her because the rope is the perfect length.
Rachel also made that same comment.
Grabs her and then bungees out of the way before all three jet skis collide into each other and explode. Now, if the girl was there still just seconds ago, would they have still been going at that speed, or did they speed up when she was gone? I mean, their goal was to get the girl. So,
Not,
so
not smash into her.
right. Regardless of if the Mariner was able to get her or not, they still all would have collided at that speed. None of them backed off. They're like, "Oh, the girl's gone." Maybe they all got distracted and looked up, so none of them decided to turn. But still,
I guess they don't need her alive to read the map.
I guess not. So anyway, all our heroes are on the boat, all five of them. Yeah, all five of them. Gregor's got his little sextant out there so he can look at the sun and get the readings. He's like, okay, so if we take the coordinates on the back, make our destination, and reverse everything, land should be that way. And he points behind them, and they're like, let's go. So at this point, I'm thinking that the girl that the enforcer was saving from the attack in the beginning was not his daughter because she's not there, and they never go back for her. It's the five of them going straight to land. It was just a person that lived there with everybody. He's like, well, I better save somebody. Anyway, so the five of them go. We get the montage of time passing. We don't know how long it's been, a few days, but we get to the point where it looks like it's the last of the waters. The Mariner's like, oh, it got a little bit left, and he dumps it out on his fingers and puts it on the girl's lips. Like, okay, she can survive with that, I guess. As opposed to here, drink this. But I mean, it's minimal at best. Everybody is asleep at this point, and we hear a seagull.
We see the seagull.
And then we see the seagull. We hear it first. Mariner wakes up and looks at it. And I was thinking about this too. It shows them as dehydrated and bad, but they're in clouds right now. There's clouds all around them. They should be absorbing, or that moisture should be helping them a little bit, right?
Yeah. There should be dew. There should be,
Exactly.
residual, some kind of water that they can consume, albeit not very much, but still, like they shouldn't be too bad off.
But they see the seagull. Eventually, through the clouds, they see land. They see the shape of land, and they get there. They I don't know if they land the ship, but they dock it or they stop it and get down. And they're crawling up this beach where there's a waterfall coming down, spreading, and they're drinking the water. It's like, oh, it's fresh water from this waterfall that's going into the ocean.
Yeah, and that's got to be the best water they've probably ever had in their life.
Yes.
Naturally clean water.
But they're looking around and all of a sudden they're like, "Hey, come here, I found something." And they find an old village, a little village with there's some huts. They go into one of the huts and they see a bed with two skeletons on it that are covered in dust and cobwebs at this point. And they look at the table and there is the map that's on Anola's back there with some tattooing equipment, not like the technology tattooing equipment, the needle and the little stick that you hammer in that you would see from old tattooing. And it's like, oh, they must have known they weren't going to make it, and they sent a map to this area on the kid in a basket.
Right. Because Enola says, I'm home at one point, doesn't
Yeah,
she?
and at this point, she sees the music box. She opens it up and actually turns it, and she's like, "I'm home," which makes me think it was about 3, maybe 2 when they stuck her in the basket. Has some residual memories, like, "I know this," and then you see horses running in the background. There's horses on the line, so she recognized them. There's pine trees everywhere, things she's been
Right.
drawing, things she's been remembering from this place.
So she would have to have been old enough to at least have a handful of memories from,
Yes, that's why I was thinking 2 or 3.
which doesn't bode well for the new settlers that the old village has died off. Because doesn't that lead you to believe that there aren't enough resources to sustain life?
No, I feel like I feel like they were sick.
So there's diseases,
Possibly. But
which is worse.
they were cognizant enough to know that they weren't gonna make it, so they sent out the kid. So maybe they were sick, maybe something happened,
Maybe they were sending for help.
maybe they were sending for help. Seems like a weird way to do it, especially like low tech Superman. Here's my kid. Push it into the water in a basket. He'll be fine.
First, let's tattoo this map on her back.
Yeah, so people can come here.
Like I said, calling for help.
Yeah, but the Mariner's not happy. Mariner's not happy. He's land sick is what Helen calls it instead of seasick. Land sick. He's having trouble walking. Everything's too stable for him. It's too loud there too. He hears the horses. He hears the talking, the water. Everything's just kind of too much for him. Birds. He's looking around and he sees a boat kind of covered by bushes over in the distance. And it's a catamaran. He had the trimaran before that had 3 holes. The catamaran has 2, so that's out in the water at this point. He's getting supplies. They're helping him getting some water from the fresh water. They're getting some food. He's gathering some other supplies. When he goes to say goodbye to Enola, who doesn't want to go. She's like, "Why do you have to go?" He's like, "It sucks here for me."
Yeah, he's a mutant. He's adjusted to water.
Yeah, I've got to be in the water. I mean, he doesn't say it, which is I don't know why they wouldn't have had him say it. It's like, "Hey, I'll come back. I'll gotta do my thing. I'll come visit." But it's just like, "I'm leaving." Will I see you again? Who knows? It
Yeah.
makes no promise or says anything about it. So basically, just
It,
kind of like goodbye, and she gets upset and runs off.
yeah. I mean, it's assumed that he's gonna come back and visit, isn't it? Or it's like, or is he not?
In my mind, he's helping some people get there. That he's going out to do his thing, and as he sees people like, "Hey, we got land. We're starting a settlement. Let's go this way." But nothing ever gets touched on there. I know there was a
No.
comic that came out in the '90s that touched on some other things, but I never read it, so I don't know what the story was there.
How could no one have found that land? You know, it's not small. And I was like thinking about it, and it's like, well, that's a needle in a haystack. The whole world is underwater, and there's probably a handful of mountaintops that are still exposed.
Yeah, I believe that one's the Himalayas. The top of Everest is part of that, and Himalayan mountains.
Yeah, so it's not there's not a lot of those, and like I mean, you would have to almost know where you're going to find it
Yeah,
because we have trouble with the technology we have now finding new islands.
yeah. But then he says goodbye to Helen too, and I mean, I don't even think they say anything. They just kind of touch hands, like, "Hey, hey, we flirted and did stuff."
Thanks for revisiting that.
Yeah, but then he's got his boat. They gave him a couple little plants that he's got on the thing, and he sails away while Helen and Enola watch from high up on the land and just watch him sail off.
Dangerously close to the edge.
Yeah. We just got here, Chef.
Don't need the map anymore.
Yeah, she won't stop talking. But that that was Waterworld.
Roll credits.
No after credit scene, no information from the comic book I never read. So, what are your thoughts? You go first. What are your thoughts on Waterworld?
The best part of that movie is the fact that I never again have to watch it in my life.
Really?
I don't know if I hated it that much. It was so boring. That movie could have been an hour long and done everything it needed to do. The fact that they stretched that pile for 2 hours and 15 minutes. Oh my gosh. It just I mean, I was so glad for it to be over.
Well, Rachel had seen it before, right?
Um,
At least
no,
she at least she knew of the movie, right?
she knew of it. She was not a fan either.
Oh man,
There were parts of it that I did enjoy. It was better than Airheads,
that's good.
but after we watched it and turned it off, I was like, now I got to find someone to give my copy of this movie to because I'm not watching that again. I liked Dennis Hopper. I thought he was great, but the whole character and the smokers were completely unbalanced and out of place in the tone of the entire movie. The plot was almost non-existent as
Get the
far
girl, get
as
the map.
get them figure out the map and find dry land. As far as a plot to carry a 2-hour movie, not nearly enough there.
Okay.
And I found Kevin Costner's character completely unlikable.
Yeah.
And it was just there were so many things about that movie that were just like, and I don't know if it's just the climate of the world nowadays, but there was so much about it that was just so wrong.
Yeah.
But I watched it. It was
You didn't
long.
hate it.
I didn't hate it. I made it through the whole thing. I didn't care for it. I'm not
Okay.
gonna watch it again.
That's fair.
I think the Universal stunt
So,
show of it is far better than the movie. And I actually think that your idea to have made it a TV show is exactly the route that it needed to be, where
yeah.
you could have multiple story arcs instead of a single plot. You?
So, I'm sure I've got some pretty big nostalgia goggles on for this one.
Probably.
But there was parts of it I didn't remember from before. There was, this time watching it, I saw how disjointed the smokers part in the world was from everything else going on in the world, which isn't great, but I still had fun watching it. And you're right, there are some slow parts, and I don't know if in my mind was going into my as things were going on, I was thinking of more lore stuff, more world building things too for what this world could be. But like I said, I do think it could be a good TV show in set in this world, whether this story is part of it or it's just someone floating around on a boat having adventures or what have you. But I enjoyed it. I will probably watch it again. If not for the whole movie, for the boat. Like I said, it's one of my favorite it's my favorite boat in media.
The boat is awesome. I'll give you that. But yeah, like you said, I would really be curious to see almost like a revival or a reboot of the Waterworld universe
Yeah.
and see it done in a better way. 'Cause I think it
Oh,
does have a lot of potential to be an awesome thing.
right. It's one of those things that, they would need to this I was thinking about it too while watching this movie. This movie is almost there. They had good ideas, they had a decent like you said, the plot wasn't there, but I mean, as far as a blockbuster go, get the thing, do the thing. It's very basic for a blockbuster, but there's a bunch of science and leaps of disbelief you have to take with this movie.
There are.
If they figured a few more things out science-wise that had let things make a bit more sense.
And if they explained more things,
Yeah, more explanation.
why are the smokers the way they are? Why is the world as aggressive as it is? Why is there not more camaraderie? What's the story behind the smokers?
Right,
Um,
why has there not been larger settlement set up? And maybe there are larger settlements, and we just got this little look at this world. Maybe there's some massive atolls or settlements of these floating islands where they actually have been able to collect enough dirt and stuff to have gardens and things like that, as opposed to eating all the fish all the time, and maybe what they're growing is who knows?
Right. The potential for something is there.
Right, and it's not like the history of the world was everything melted overnight and people are scrambling to survive. It was a slow rise into the ocean. You had to have all that early world stuff that set up a few things, and maybe there's some outposts like that at high locations that are more modern that some people are still living and occupying. Like, okay, we're getting to the point where none of these things are stable. The more technologically advanced boats and things, or what things have dissolved into from that. So if you it's something we've talked about before too in the past, that movies nowadays not being analyzed way more than anybody ever thought they would be when they were made. Like, oh, what would happen if the world was covered in water and people lived on boats and stuff? Like, oh, that's a good concept. How did it get there? Doesn't matter. We're just making a movie. Got it.
Right. Well, and then and a lot of the fact of when it was made, it was like, let's just make a really cool action movie in a dystopian water world.
Yeah. It's like Mad Max on water. Okay.
That was the selling point of it. They didn't really need to think of much else.
No.
Well, actually, they did because it totally flopped. So
Yeah.
that kind of
Yeah.
lets you know that there was a lot of things missing from the
It
movie.
was the most expensive movie at the time, and it didn't do anything. It didn't do it.
It didn't do well.
It flopped. So
Right. And then 3 years later, 3 or 4 years later, you have Titanic that annihilates the budget of this movie
yeah,
and rakes in over $1 billion.
but I mean, it's Titanic.
Yeah. Again, water. No.
Yeah, and in my mind, I enjoyed it. I will watch it again. I may think about doing a D&D session or something in this type of world.
That would be fun. That'd be
Yeah,
cool.
or Pathfinder or whatever system I'm running, but maybe it's got its own system you can run. But
Yeah, maybe there is some kind of Waterworld-esque type.
and maybe that's what I'm looking at. The prospect of what this world is and could be is what's keeping me enthralled with it.
I get that. Yeah, because I definitely have talking with you about it, I definitely have much more of an interest in it than I did just watching it with Rachel.
Yeah. So
And I definitely I could see us really like nerding out over it a lot more than we already have.
yeah, like things like the Exxon Valdez was a fun callback, but would that ship even be around at that point? What's things like that? Are there other mountaintops or floating things? I mean, is the
Yeah.
like is there a civilization on the garbage island that's out there that is just floating around after hundreds of years? That would be a ideal spot to set up on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
there's so many questions.
so many questions, so many things you can go, so many ways to go.
Right. Well, and then if you look at watching the whole movie, it takes place over what, like a month?
Yeah, a month or so. I mean, because dude's eye heals up pretty good.
Yeah. And then you also look at the fact of like there was no change in the weather.
Right, there's no change in the weather. They're all
Don't
I mean, they're roughly in the same place
Yeah. But don't you think that it would
of
rain more?
a couple 100 miles. Yeah, rain, unless the high oceans have totally messed with all the weather, but, I mean,
That's not even visited.
yeah, the weather's not even visited, and I'm not a scientist, so I don't exactly know what the potential, weather patterns and things would be if this catastrophic of a flood happened, but it's something that that I don't know if could easily be figured out, but you get the right people looking at it, it's like, "Okay, what could happen?" I mean, History Channel's done a bunch of what ifs, so I think that'd be cool, them going through a storm, battening things down, tidal waves. I don't know if tidal waves would be a thing. I mean, you get earthquakes still. Tectonic plates are still moving. Yeah, there's
Sure.
got a shift in water like that, so you get some big waves and things like that.
Yeah,
If you
tornadoes, like
yep,
whirlpools.
been long enough to have some weird new creatures in
Yeah.
the
Well,
ocean.
and then think about it. All the nuclear power plants are now underwater.
Yeah,
So you have all that radiation in the water.
yeah,
Like that water's got to be like horribly toxic, and people are like swimming in it. And then it's like, oh, we have a map, but that's like you don't have any landmarkers.
right. This is just based on stars, sun, and where you think you might be.
How often are people getting lost and never seen again?
Right. I mean, which is why the drifters are the one guy he couldn't find where he was and hasn't had food, hasn't had water in a while.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of that going on.
Yeah.
There's just yeah,
So
like I said, there's so much potential and possibility for the world. It's a shame that the movie wasn't able to.
it fell short.
It fell short on so many levels with that, and it might be too big for just a single movie. The concept.
Right. Right. Well, then if you take into account landmarks and where things are at, so I'm assuming that the land they found was the Himalayas with the writing being Chinese. I think that's what it was, right? On the tattoo and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I believe it was the
That
Himalayas.
that makes sense, right? But
I don't know. I'm not great at geography.
that's fair. I don't even remember what my point was.
That's all right.
But no, as okay, now we're in the Waterworld podcast, but yeah, there's I mean the different things they can do as the water slowly rises and people start moving up elevation, you lose cities and stuff like Himalayas. Would it still be as untouched as that, or would people have started building more things on there as water levels rise?
Yeah, I mean, who's to say?
Yeah, so
And then, with yachts and military boats as the way they are now, like for a long time, you'd be kind of all right because like I said, it's not or like you touched on earlier, it wouldn't be an overnight thing. It would be, the water levels are rising. Yeah, they're rising kind of quickly, but like as a civilization, you're gonna start preparing for it.
right. I mean, are some of these bigger civilizations in other areas where maybe they've got multiple tankers and one tanker is just loaded with dirt and is a farm
Yeah.
on top.
I mean, you have your countries that are and governments that are still gonna try to
Right.
survive.
Yeah. So this I mean, this movie takes place at a point where all that has collapsed. People have stopped trying. I don't know. Would we have adapted faster? Would we have figured out more ways to get resources? Would where land is at the top of mountains be kind of a point where they start trying to build down?
Who knows? And how honestly, how high would the water rise?
Right.
Would it
Right.
even be as extreme as it is in the movie?
True.
Or would
Yeah.
the West Coast start at Montana?
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, you see basically it's just or the Rockies, you get the bunch of the Rockies and then I don't know. But that was Waterworld. If you've seen it and enjoy it or don't enjoy it, let us know. Let's have a conversation.
Yeah, definitely. We'd love to hear your thoughts on Waterworld. You can contact us on Twitter at WatchItBroPod or email us watchitbropodcast@gmail.com.
And if you've never seen Waterworld and this podcast inspires you to watch it, let us know that too. I'd be curious.
Yes, yes, definitely.
Tristan's like, don't watch it.
Don't watch it. It's so long.
It's not that long. And
If
to be and for whatever reason, whatever I saw, I think it was the extended cut when I was looking up the time online. We thought it was close to 3 hours when I first said it.
So if you're gonna watch it, make sure you're watching the theatrical cut. And if you like the theatrical cut, then watch the extended cut.
Yes.
Don't start with the 3 hour movie because if you don't like it, oh boy, are you in for it.
But I don't have anything else. I think we're getting close to the point where you tell me what we're watching next.
Yes, I think we are at that point, which you have stated is one of your favorite parts of the show.
It is.
So,
And at
it,
at this moment, you're like, I'm liking that part less and less now.
a little bit. I still like my turn,
Okay.
but yeah, we are going to go into a completely different direction than Waterworld, and we
That's
are going to
probably good.
yeah, it's a pretty big franchise we're gonna go into.
We're doing franchises now.
It's a movie in a franchise. So
Okay.
there's four movies in the franchise. None of them are related to each other.
Oh,
I would say 3 out of 4 of these movies are considered classics. You look confused.
I'm trying to think of what you're talking about, and I can't come up with it.
Okay, so we are going to join the Griswolds as they go on vacation to Las Vegas.
Nice. Vegas
And
Vacation.
Vegas Vacation. And I forgot to preface before I told you what it was that this is, I feel, arguably the best movie in the franchise.
I think you might be right. It's
Interesting.
it's 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 between this one and Christmas Vacation
Absolutely.
as
But
the best, but
I, th- I think I haven't seen Vegas Vacation in a while, but I'm pretty sure that yes, Vegas Vacation is like just edges out Christmas Vacation for the best movie of the four.
Okay. Interesting. That's fantastic. I'm excited to watch this one.
Me too. 'Cause I remember loving it,
Yeah.
and like I read a review, and like it's consistently ranked the worst vacation movie.
Even over European Vacation?
Yes,
Eee.
yeah. I read a review online like when I finally picked Vegas Vacation, and like oh, all the vacation movies ranked, and it was, I mean, even after it was ranked even below the reboot.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, and I'm like, there's no way. I'm like, Vegas Vacation. I think it's the best one. It's
I I
definitely
remember
my
it being the
favorite.
best, and I remember liking it the best.
Me too.
Well, let's see if we're broken.
Let's see how it holds up after all these
I mean,
years.
as I keep saying, Airheads and Waterworld are good.
Waterheads.
Airheads and Waterheads.
But see, but the difference, like you stuck by Airheads,
I did.
like
I still enjoy it. I actually watched it the other night.
yeah, but Waterworld you didn't. Waterworld you were like, I think it's just the nostalgia.
I think a lot of it's the nostalgia. There's a lot of it I enjoy, but I think I like the world, the building, and that more than the movie itself.
Right. Because when we watched this movie, you were like, like maybe it was a mistake, kind of.
I mean, I'll still watch it again.
Yeah, yeah, you will, but like you weren't as gung ho as like, oh, this is great, as
Yeah,
you were about Airheads.
but yeah, I that sounds fantastic.
Yeah, I think it sounds great to me too. Now you're gonna have to figure out where to watch it.
No, I've got that movie.
You do?
I think so.
Oh, I had to buy it. I found it on eBay for $5.
Nice.
Fingers crossed my copy works. But yeah, are we ready to close this up?
I think so.
All right. That about wraps up our episode on Waterworld. Thank you for coming along with us as we looked at that dystopian world. Our intro and outro music is provided by Nihilor, that intro being Grace, that outro being Haven. And as always, thank you for watching.